Tipp today, in association with Slattery's of Pecan, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. Slattery'sGarage.ie.
Good morning, welcome along to Tipp Today, 1800 938 007. That's our free phone number if you want to give us a call, and Leanne is producing. Coming up on the show this morning, we will discuss the murder of Henry Nowak in the UK and the latest developments in that case. Cllr Jim Ryan joins us to discuss the EU Migration and Asylum Pact. The late Ian Bailey is back in the headlines, and we will revisit a conversation I had with him back in 2017. Representatives from the South Tipperary Autism Parents Support Group will tell us about their upcoming Sensory-Friendly Debs Ball. Former Irish Army member Stephen Hogan shares his experiences of serving in Chad back in 2008. Karen has the interior design slot. Our Agony Aunt, dear Phil, will join us in the studio to answer your questions. And Betty shares her personal experience of being churched following the birth of her children. So all of that and much, much more on the way. You can text and WhatsApp 083 311 3311. You can email tiptoday at tipfm.com. Now we've a competition for you. Our great friends at Slattery's of Nina. They're celebrating a remarkable 80 years in business, and to mark the milestone, they've teamed up with us here on Tipp Today to give away a €50 voucher every morning this week. Now, whether you're a long-time customer or looking to discover all that Slattery's has to offer, this is your chance to treat yourself courtesy of one of Tipperary's most trusted and well-loved businesses. So to be in with a chance of winning, all you have to do is text or WhatsApp the word Slattery's to 083 311 3311, followed by your name and your details, and we will pick a lucky winner in just a little while where that is concerned. So once again, 083 311 3311. Let's have a look at the front pages of some of your newspapers this morning. The Irish Daily Mail and their lead story: the Rotunda Hospital was left with no option but to cave in to the Health Minister's demands that public-only consultants stop treating private patients after funding was threatened there. The Irish Times, and it's dominated by a remarkable photograph indeed. A local pastor praying as a member of the Congolese Red Cross team, wearing personal protective equipment, placed the coffin of a woman suspected of having died from Ebola on a pickup truck ahead of her burial in Bunia, a city in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo. It's a great sadness indeed about the photograph. Also on the front of the Times today, that story about the Rotunda is there. They're also telling us that Sean McGovern, the senior Kinahan cartel figure formerly based in Dubai, is expected to serve at least 16 years of the 24-year prison sentence imposed on him by the Special Criminal Court. The Irish Independent, the main story there is that Kinahan story as well. Jailed Kinahan enforcer was linked to 5 murder plots, the Indo is telling us. And to the Irish Examiner. And the Examiner is dominated by a lovely family photograph indeed. Alan Smith of Greystones in Wicklow with his wife Anne and daughter Sophia at the Bachelor of Arts in Applied Policing graduation ceremony in the University of Limerick yesterday. But it's a lovely, lovely photograph there on the front of the Examiner. Also reading on the Examiner today that thousands of carers are cutting back on food and heat to make ends meet, while at the same time paying out privately for crucial equipment such as wheelchairs for their loved ones, which should be funded by the public system. Now, we covered that story last week on Tipp Today. Also reading on the Examiner today that a report into how Gardaí handled allegations against paedophile Bill Keneally in the 1980s has said that the investigations were unprofessional, rushed and inappropriate as well. Its final report, to be presented to Cabinet by Justice Minister Jim O'Callaghan today, has been examining how state agencies dealt with allegations made against Keneally since 2018. And also on the Examiner today, and finally, the government is set to face more pressure indeed to support a boycott of the Republic of Ireland's match against Israel after the decision to move the match out of Dublin was branded a cop-out. That's what's making headlines today. Would you like to comment on any of that? And if so, 083 311 3311. Now, a further 6 men have been charged following a protest in Southampton over the murder of Henry Nowak. 11 police officers and a police dog were injured as missiles, including wheelie bins and chairs, were thrown at police officers on Tuesday, the 2nd of June. Now, the protest happened after police body cam footage was released showing Nowak, who was 18 years of age, from Essex, handcuffed as he lay dying after being stabbed by Vikram Digwa, who was jailed for life on the 1st of June. Bernard Purcell from the Irish World newspaper joins me now live from the UK. Good morning to you, Bernard.
Good morning, Brian.
And thanks so much for your time this morning. Will you tell us, who was Henry Nowak?
18-year-old British and Polish dual nationality student who grew up in Essex, who was studying business and accountancy at Southampton. He was on his way home one night and he clashed or collided with a 23-year-old by the name of Vikram Singh Digwa, who, after an altercation, stabbed Henry and filmed his plight and his distress. And when police turned up on the scene after they were called by his brother, Digwa claimed that he'd been the victim of a racial attack. They handcuffed Henry Nowak, who protested that he had been stabbed and couldn't breathe, and they ignored that until eventually they looked to check his wounds, saw that he had been, and they applied CPR but were too late. He died from his wounds. The trial of Digwa, who was sentenced to life with a minimum of something like 21 years last week, heard that expert forensic and medical evidence said that even if the police had responded more professionally and not handcuffed him and ignored his wounds, the severity of the wounds was such that he would have died anyway. This has been seized on by far-right groups and several other groups as well on the political spectrum as an example of political correctness gone mad, that police were too worried. They were more worried about accusations of racism than tending to the person in distress. So you've had the likes of Nigel Farage and various other people, as I said, right across the political spectrum, trying to claim that Britain is at the mercy of runaway diversity and inclusion laws, and so they've been using phrases like White Lives Matter. The protests you're talking about were attended by Stephen Yaxley Lennon, who goes under the name of Tommy Robinson, and 11 police officers and a police dog were hurt. The repercussions are still continuing. Digwa's mother is due in court for aiding and assisting and attempting to dispose of the weapon. And Digwa, his brother and his father are due to appear in court for possession of quite an armoury of offensive weapons. One of the things that has caused a certain amount of agitation and discontent is the fact that Digwa, a Sikh, was carrying a blade, a ceremonial blade, called a kirpan. But the kirpan wasn't used for, which Sikhs are allowed to do in Britain under the law here, but it wasn't the kirpan that was used to stab Nowak 5 times. It was a much larger 8-inch Persian blade that could cut through chainmail.
My God. What actually happened on the fateful night itself, on the 3rd of December, is kind of vague to me. Is it true that Digwa alerted the police?
His brother called the police, I believe, the trial heard, but when they turned up, he had at first tried to escape, but not before he had filmed Henry dying and in agony. He then, when the police turned up, he claimed that, and his brother also claimed, that he'd been the victim of a racist attack.
What about the police who were involved then? I understand at least one of them has left the force and the others no longer actively policing.
Well, the constabulary say that the one who has left for unrelated reasons, and there were attacks on an officer who wasn't involved last week by protesters who had to move to a safe house. The other three officers have been assigned to different duties, but they're not front-facing or dealing with the public. At the moment, there's at least one independent office of police conduct investigation. There's another inquiry that's being called for. Sikhs have called for an independent investigation, and there's an inquest which is due to be held in September of next year.
Now, I know that Mr. Nowak's family, they're at pains to dampen down reaction to this in as much as they possibly can. They don't want people out there protesting. They certainly don't want violence, I understand.
And they don't want it exploited, but they do want a review of Britain's knife laws. And they would have a great deal of popular support for that.
It's remarkable. I mean, there are knife laws in place, but the Sikhs, because of their culture, they're allowed to have these ceremonial knives on their person. Is that? Did I get you right there, Bernard?
That's correct, under the Offensive Weapons Act there, and as it was amended in 2019, I think, or more recently than that. But Sikhs, it has not been an issue before now. The individual in question, Digwa, who's 23, has a history of an obsession with weapons and challenging behaviour, at least according to one of his grandparents. There's also footage of him with an air gun. He apparently at his place of work, he used to almost with fetish brandish or wear his knife on the exterior. It has, excuse me, I beg your pardon. It has not been an issue to the extent that most people were unaware of it until now. There are even instances of, say, Sikh women who wear their kirpans welded shut, so they can't they can't be used against them. The offence is to brandish the knife; it's to take it from its scabbard. And as I said, it has not been an issue. It's an article of faith for one sect of Sikhism. Sikhs are very well integrated into Britain. They have a good reputation, and people will probably recall seeing a very large turbaned bearded gentleman on walkabouts with King Charles, who's always been quite close to him. Is one of his most faithful protection officers, is a very, very prominent Sikh.
The Prime Minister, I understand, met Henry Nowak's family. That's
correct, and he said it was a humbling experience. Both the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Badenoch, have been at pains to be seen to be responsible and to draw a distinction between themselves and Nigel Farage, the Leader of Reform, who called for cold rage and for people to respond and react, but always, as in the past, just the right side of not agitating for violence. He seems to give the lead, and up to now, both the Tories and Labour have pretty much played the game as he has defined it and dictated it. But there is opinion poll evidence that suggests that Farage, who is otherwise doing quite well with reform, is seen or perceived quite negatively because of the way he has exploited, for entirely cynical reasons, the death and the reaction. On the other hand, Badenoch has had some of her most favourable press in a long time. But what the parties themselves seem to have walked into a trap of his making, in that he's setting the narrative that when he blames diversity, equality, inclusion laws for Britain's ills and for something like this coming about, when it's quite clear that the individual in question was a disturbed, nasty individual with weapons obsession and anger issues.
So what happens next then on this, Bernard?
Well, as I said, Digwa, his father and his brother will face additional weapons charges. His mother next month will also appear in court for helping to dispose of the weapon and for her part in the event. As I said, there are investigations going on. There's a police internal investigation. There are calls by Sikhs who feel that who've said that they've never experienced such public hostility and they feel threatened for an inquiry. And there is a forthcoming inquest which people will probably have forgotten about the incident by the time it starts in September of next year. Meanwhile, it will sort of continue trundle along with it as a debate about equality and equality legislation. People like J.D. Vance and the White House have gotten involved. Elon Musk has gotten involved. It's being used as, even Pete Hegseth, the Defence Secretary, at a D-Day commemoration at the weekend, attacked Europe and Britain for allowing non-white people to invade and undermine their culture. So people who have an interest in fomenting civil unrest and social unrest and strife will continue to exploit it and be used by the likes of so-called Tommy Robinson and others.
And just finally, Bernard, we've been speaking on the programme about knife crime in Ireland over the last while because there's certainly a rise in people's lives being taken with the use of knives. What about in Britain? I mean, is this a national emergency at this stage? Is knife crime on the increase all of the time?
Well, it depends on how you look at the statistics, but it is an issue. It's a very serious issue, and despite several initiatives, there are regular reports of youngsters and others with blades. Some manage to hit the public consciousness, others don't. But it is not something that the authorities have got on top of.
Bernard, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for making time for us. Thank you. Good morning to you, Bernard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bernard Purcell there from the Irish World, speaking to us there from the UK this morning. 1800 938 007. The text and WhatsApp is 083 311 3311. One of our listeners saying nobody should be allowed to carry knives, and it's evil that's happening on the streets of Ireland, says a listener. Somebody else saying, it's Barbara in fact, saying, Fran, it's an absolute disgrace the way family carers have been treated by this and previous governments. Family carers save the taxpayer 20 billion every year. Our health system would simply collapse if carers stopped providing support every single day. Despite this, we are forced to fight and beg for every basic support. The government has rightly recognised the need to support other sectors, including the arts community, but family carers are expected to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, often without a break and with little financial recognition. Many carers are left facing impossible choices between putting food on the table or paying for heating and electricity. We provide an essential service that saves the state billions, yet too many carers are struggling just to survive. It's a time that family carers were treated with respect, recognition and support that they deserve.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie. Drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
And you're welcome back to Tip Today. A big thumbs up indeed for that idea of the national anthem being taught in our schools. One of our listeners is saying in relation to the anthem, Fran, young people are craving a sense of belonging. It's a known fact. Clearly the singing of the anthem would bring a sense of community, belonging and pride, which is badly needed. It's a no-brainer. Somebody else saying, my children go to Terry Glass National School and they all learned the national anthem last year. It's beautiful to hear children children singing it together. On another note, I've been to many hurling matches where adults don't know the words of the anthems. Says Babs, well, you're dead right where that is concerned. It's something I would imagine we'll be getting back to. We heard last week that Thurles Sarsfield's GAA has been approved for government funding of $2.4 million to upgrade the club's facilities at their Racecourse Road grounds. Deputy Michael Lowry is welcoming the news, and he joins me now. Good morning to you, Michael.
Good morning, Fran.
A great boost for the club. Much needed funds there.
Yes, well, it's wonderful news, and it's a great boost. It's a significant financial bonanza for the club, as they've been allocated $2.4 million under the Immigrant Investment Programme. Obviously, that offer of fund is subject to the conditions of the scheme. But this funding will allow, I suppose you could say, one of the greatest clubs in the history of the GAA to bring forward and to complete their construction programme. And the famous club will have facilities to match their rich history and legacy. Sarsfields, Fran, if you're passing there, you've seen they have already achieved major progress at its new grounds with investment of close to $1.5 million. A lot of work has been done. So this new funding will expedite the completion of their ambitious plans, which have already been drawn up. And when completed, they will have a centre of excellence for its members and for the entire community. It will be a significant boost to the local economy, and it will allow young and old people the opportunity to participate in sport and leisure activities at their centre. So, Fran, if you go back on this, credit would have to be given to the previous club officers for their vision and indeed for the courage that they've shown in purchasing the land and beginning the project. And that happened in 2013 under the chairmanship of Michael Maher when they purchased that 15 acres of land. And then it continued under the chairmanship of John Cahill. They at that stage entered into the IIP and made an application. And John was ably supported, and the key people at that time were Thomas Callan, John Smith and Tom Barry. So that initiative then has been carried on by the current officer board, who have been fundraising and progressing the development. And those officers have done excellent work in preparing playing pitches, embankment. They've put in recently a special surface walking track, which is used and enjoyed by many people from the town and parish. And like we all know at this stage how difficult it is to get volunteers, so the club are very fortunate, very lucky to have excellent young men as leaders in David O'Dwyer, John Maher and Sean Smith and the committee. They're very diligent, they're competent, and I'm absolutely satisfied that they'll carefully manage the fund, that they'll spend it wisely and oversee the implementation of a first-class development.
What about the final compliance procedures that are there? I mean, it's not absolutely guaranteed yet until these procedures are adhered to, Michael. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Before I answer that, could I just say also that the club, and this is very important in pulling down funds or applying for applications, the club is notable for the contribution that women make at all levels of the club activity. Sarsi's camogie and ladies football are encouraged and supported. Both codes are strong and advancing, and we know this year and other years that Sarsi's camogie has had great success and is building for further success. Now, in relation to it's first of all, the club will meet the criteria. The club have no difficulty in doing that. The funders have been assessed, have been analysed, have been evaluated, and everything is above board and bona fide. So this development will happen. There's nothing that the club have to do that they weren't already aware of and committed to doing.
There's been some other clubs across the county expressing disappointment at not being able, Michael, to access similar financial lifelines, I suppose, because they are lifelines for these clubs as well. Can you understand that disappointment?
I can, but first of all, in relation to this, there are two other applicants from Tipperary. One has been requested for additional information and clarification. The second, in another case, they have to prove that it meets the inclusivity, the local community engagement aspect of the scheme. So they have been in contact with me, and we're working to see what we can do to support and assist them. But of course, it's important to remember that the scheme is now closed. And obviously that's a great pity that the scheme is discontinued. There was and is successful stories, ventures that have had good outcomes and economic benefits. And we have outstanding developments work that were funded by this scheme in Tipperary.
A lot of negative stigma around the particular scheme, though. I know the Sinn Féin branch, said it was cash for visa sort of a scheme as well. So some negative stuff around the scheme itself.
Yes, there is, and I would say from the word go, the scheme was probably badly designed. It was too loose, and it was open to manipulation. Unfortunately, some agents took advantage of the loopholes and, by their actions, destroyed the integrity of the programme. And what it brings into feature here, I suppose, is that first that Irish residency, Irish citizenship, Irish passports, they're very much respected and valued across the world. And we probably don't realise it, Fran, but Irish passport is a treasure document.
Well, of course, but the nature, the idea of being able to purchase it almost in some sort of a way would be really unfortunate, wouldn't it?
Well, look, Irish passports, as I said, they're a treasure document. They open up and make travel easy across Europe and the continents. Irish passports are much sought after and in huge demand. So the principle of the scheme, Fran, when it was opened approximately 11 years ago, was good, but unfortunately it has been abused. The scheme commenced in 2012, and from 2012 to 2023 there was 1,400 applicants and subscribers to the value of approximately $1 billion. And the scheme attracted a lot of governance attention by agencies in Ireland and the European Commission. And here in Ireland, we've had a number of investigations and allegations, system abuse. We also saw projects collapse because investors didn't come up with the money, or in other cases there were strong suspicions about the true identity of the investors and the real motivation behind the transaction. And that's what brought the attention of the authorities in Ireland and in Europe to the scheme. So, what happened then is the then Minister for Justice in February 23 closed the scheme, and it remains closed and probably unlikely to ever be restored. But in early 2023, I was one of many who argued strongly that the community groups and the sports groups who had already made applications, that they should be allowed to avail of the programme if they met with the criteria. So in February 2023, it was agreed politically that all applicants in the system would be adjudicated on.
Right. And this windfall for Thurles Sarsfield, was that part of your deal with the government in some way?
No, it wasn't part of the deal, but we made it politically. At the time, when I heard that the scheme was closed, I was aware that Thurles Sarsfield and other clubs that I was supporting were part of the scheme, had made applications for the scheme. So while I accepted the scheme was going to be closed, because at that particular time it became evident that 94% of the applicants were actually all Chinese. So there was, the scheme was seen by them as useful to them, and I suppose to a certain extent was abused by some of them. So at that stage we had to find a political solution, and it was agreed that all the current applications in the system would be adjudicated on. And obviously there has been a far more in-depth due diligence. There has been a rigorous process put in place and applied. And because of this, decisions took time and delays occurred. And the assessment process is obviously broader and tighter. So now we have got to the stage, recently reached a point where genuine investors have been vetted and approved. These valid applications have been matched against clubs and organisations who have solid development plans, and the successful clubs have received confirmation of funding subject to meeting the criteria of the scheme.
I was just talking to Stephen about this earlier on, Michael, and he was making a very good point indeed that it really is an unmatched sporting quarter now. If you take Semple Stadium, the Greyhound Stadium, Satanta College, the new tennis club there, the Thurles Racecourse, and now new facilities, hopefully, at Thurles SARS. It's really turned into a sporting quarter, hasn't it?
Well, actually, Thurles has turned into a sporting quarter. It has turned into an educational hub. And all of those facilities are attached to those. Like Stephen is correct, we have in that corner of the town there, we have the stadium, and as Stephen outlined, we have Thurles Crokes. We also have the college. And then across, we have, I'm involved in a major development there at the moment in the Morris Park, which will be developed as a centre of excellence for all of Tipperary. I think that's going to be a major boost for sport in the area and for the GA and for the local economy. And as I said, we have a lot of educational facilities in Thurles with the Technological College, with St. Patrick's, MIC, then we have the training centre out in Archerstown. So Thurles is active, Thurles is vibrant, Thurles is progressing, and it's mainly, as I said, because of the influx of young people for educational purpose into the town, who are a very important part of the economy of the town now as well.
Before I let you go, full-time carers, they will receive their grant payment. Is that this week?
Yes, the annual support grant of €2,000 will be paid this Thursday through the nominated post office or directly to a bank account. That grant is exempt from all taxes. It will be paid automatically to those in receipt of carers allowance, carers benefit or the domiciliary care allowance. And what it is, Fran, is a financial gesture to recognise the commitment and the vital role that our carers contribute to those that need support within our families and throughout our communities. In Tipperary, 6,087 people will receive the payment. It is part of the last budget also, the measures were introduced to improve the weekly income disregard for carers allowance. In other words, to make it easier for people to access carers allowance and not to have a prohibition on them in relation to income. This becomes effective from the 1st of July. So that's a step forward in acknowledging the enormous role played by carers, and currently discussions have started on the next budget, and I expect that further progress on the income disregard will be made in this year's budget in line with a commitment that is in the programme for government. All
right, Michael, good to talk to you today, and thanks for your time. Thank you. Good morning to you. That's Deputy Michael Lowry speaking to us this morning. 1800 938 007. The text and WhatsApp is 083 311 3311.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tipp today on 1800 938 007.
Deputy Michael Murphy was on to say, following my conversation with Cllr Jim Ryan on Sunday, I will be meeting with the Minister this week along with Deputy Joe Neville. Will also escalate with the chair of the Oireachtas Committee on Enterprise. And that's from Deputy Michael Murphy this morning. Leanne is with me. Morning, Leanne.
Good morning, Fran.
How are you today? There's been an unfortunate stabbing last night in Belfast as well. What do we know about that so far?
So it ties into our conversation on knife crime being on the rise. So it was 10:30 last night the police were called to North Belfast because a man had to be rushed to hospital in very bad shape after being stabbed multiple times in the head. So police are investigating the situation. It is an active crime scene at the moment. There's police presence in the area. Victims or people who witnessed it have said it was absolute chaos, and there's very graphic footage going around online of it at the moment. And Councillor Jordan Doran, he's a local councillor in the area, has shared his shock and dismay at the situation.
Oh my God, but the police are being careful enough about what they're saying at the moment. Is that
obviously it only happened last night, so investigations have to take place. There's a huge police presence in the area. The investigation is ongoing and the victim is in hospital.
Now, the late Ian Bailey, what were you telling us about that?
Yeah, so Ian Bailey, before he died, he knew he was having some health issues. He insisted on bringing his DNA to the Gardaí once again, because he thought with the progression of DNA systems that maybe eventually they would be able to rule him out, because up to his death he is still the number one murder suspect.
Yes.
So
the killing of Sophia Toscan de Plantier, of course, 1996 was the year.
Yeah, so I was rummaging through the archives when I saw this in the headlines, and I found a clip of you when you met Ian Bailey in person in 2017 after his day in the forecourts.
So you wanted to play this?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it, because, you know, you read the headlines and then I do be doing my little bit of rummaging around and I just couldn't believe you met him in person.
I did indeed, yeah. We were in a public house, and in fact it was Trudy Lawler, who was working here at the time, that set up this particular interview. But yeah, let's listen to this. This was me and him talking in a public house in Dublin.
Did you kill Madame de Plantier?
No, I have nothing to do with this, and I know that, and I believe the guards actually know that as well. But no, I didn't.
The people of Schull, in terms of how they react to you, Ian, has that changed over the years?
It has indeed. 20 years ago, we know this, guards went around the community basically putting terror in their hearts, telling people, have no doubt, it's that English so-and-so, Ian Bailey, who's murdered this woman, and he will murder again. And we know this, people told us. So they put fear into the hearts of the community. At the same time, they were telling members of the media, have no doubt, we know who it is, it's him. And a lot of people didn't know, and a lot of people bought into that false narrative and believed that story. But at the same time, and this is going back 20 years ago, there were an awful lot of people who didn't and were very supportive. Now, what I've noticed now, the little cabal or group in the He Did It camp is so shrunk. I think it possibly still exists, a few people, and I know who they are, and I know. I won't mention any names, but I would say now, it's completely different. And it's been incrementally different, in as much that there have been many things along the journey of this. After the civil case, there was a huge wave of support that came out of the blue and up, and very supportive. And just on that civil action, I walked away that day after 64 days. I'd done my best. I brought my legal team and my witnesses over. We were never going to win that. But the interesting thing was I didn't feel in any way defeated. And I actually felt, although I hadn't won it, that I had vindicated and brought an awful lot of what I knew and had known for many years into the public domain. And now, today, as a result of this case from the appeal court, we will be going back and obviously revisiting this matter.
Ian, you came to Ireland to escape the rat race of your career in England at the time. Do you regret that?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? No, I don't. No, I don't. And I mean, I regret some of the things that nothing to do with me that have gone on. Well, can you regret things that have nothing to do with you? I don't know if you can. They just happen. No, I don't. I fell in love with Ireland. And when I say the word love, I mean love. And it was something about the people, and it happened. I'm not the first person, and I certainly won't be the last, and it's happening to a lot of people at the moment. I notice in West Cork, people coming from America and Britain, and maybe they've come here on holiday and now they're coming here to live because it's such a beautiful place. And is that a naivety? No, it might be a lovely naivety, yes. But is it a naivety? Well, in my case, there would have been a sort of, what do they call it, rose-coloured glasses, yeah. A bit, but I mean, it is such a romantic place, and I came here to explore my muse, to explore my poetic muse, and to do any jobs I could find, and to write articles for newspapers. And no, I don't regret it at all. And you know, as part of my adventures in the first year I was here, I spent some time in County Tipperary. In fact, I actually lived in County Tipperary for a very short time with some cows in a tent. And when I came up, because I was working on the farm in County Waterford, and it was not too far away at Kilmacthomas, and I got the tent and I hitched up to the first thing, Cllr. Was it the Trip to Tipp? They called it in Thurles in 1991, and had 3 very memorable, wonderful days and nights. And I think during that time I contributed the equivalent, I counted, £25, punts at the time, into the local economy in the form of cups of tea.
Very good. The perpetrator of the murder, I mean, I'm really interested to know your reaction to this. The perpetrator of the murder obviously has gotten away with murder. Do you see that person as being extremely intelligent, extremely bright, cunning, or just lucky?
I mean, on that point, all I know is I have nothing to do with it. So if you accept my side, who did? Well, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, was it from France? Was it a local person? What was the motive? Was there a motive? I really don't know. And I can't say. I'd be guessing, and I don't do that. So,
but you must have, particularly in the early years, you must have thought deeply about that.
Well, I still do. I mean, it would be wonderful. I mean, who did it? I mean, you've got to take a number of factors into consideration. One, her relationship with her husband, and I don't want to speak ill of the dead. I mean, he's passed away, but there was definitely something going on, and they were both having affairs left, right, and centre. There's no doubt about that, and I don't wish to defame them, but they had an open marriage, and many French people apparently do, and maybe there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, there was so many. Her place where she lived, it's very, very, very isolated. I mean, I had a rough idea where it was, but you wouldn't find it normally. So, in other words, that indicates to me that whoever it was who was responsible had knowledge of that and knowledge of the place. So, I don't know. I always felt myself, and if it was just a gut feeling, I always believed it had a French connection, and I still do. Having said that, I can't see it necessarily. I don't think it'll ever be solved. I would not be nice, but I don't think so.
The extradition, the application for extradition, it was turned down, of course, but it means that the French can still try you in your absence for murder.
Under their Napoleonic code of law, they have given themselves the right to try any, where a French citizen is injured or a victim of a crime anywhere in the world, they can try that case in France, and that's what they're trying to do here with me. But the Irish High Court have now ruled, and the Supreme Court too, that there's no reciprocity, and that's a big word to explain it simply. There has to be an equivalence between in legal systems, and there is no equivalence in this. Therefore, I'm not to be extradited. Now that decision, which was only given this week, which is great for me when it sort of lifts the cloud a bit, will almost certainly be appealed by the state, and we now wait to see if that will happen. And I gather there is a bit of a spat going on, I think you may have mentioned it, to do between the Department of Justice and the judiciary.
But essentially, even interviews that have been dismissed here can possibly be used in a French court, isn't that right?
Yes, I mean, this is one of the... I studied... I have a French lawyer, first of all, in Paris, Dominique Tricot, and interestingly, if I had between 30 to 50,000 euros spare, I could actually fight what they're trying to do in France. I could actually be challenging it, but I don't have anything like that. I'm a simple poet. But so, in French law, you basically, if you're accused of an offence, you are guilty and you have to prove your innocence. Now, in French law, they say, oh, no, you have the benefit of the presumption of innocence. But you don't in practice. And not only that, there are statements that have been long retracted, long rejected, and discredited, which are still active and live in the French file and the indictment as it's been served. And they're including that information. They don't need to actually call the witnesses. They can just use the statements. Even statements of people who are dead, false statements of people who are now passed away and cannot be cross-examined or communicated with other than by a medium. Their statements can come into play in evidence.
It's amazing you talk about the presumption of innocence, but again, over the last few days, when I told people I was meeting you, they were very surprised to hear you were never charged.
No, well, I mean, there was no evidence, and if you're familiar with the 2000...
Well, again, just perception is what I mean, Ian,
right.
That they were surprised to know that after all the publicity and all the years, you were not charged.
No, well, and I was arrested on two occasions. The second occasion on my birthday in 1998. And as you're aware, there was a critique of the guard's case that was prepared by the DPP's office in 2001, Mr. Robert Sheehan. And he, in a 46-page document, he completely traduced, rejected, and took to pieces any case that the guards were trying to make against me. And yet, even after that, when the French made an application for the evidence, which had been rejected here, so it had been the subject of a DPP's inquiry, was known to be flawed, faulty, deficient in some way, that was all handed over to the French authorities. And they were doing this so they could try to somehow get me out of the country.
The last few years, in terms of you making a living, how difficult has that been?
Well, the immediate effect 20 years ago was that I managed to do a little bit of journalism immediately afterwards, but it became increasingly hard. And I think in one newspaper I rang up sometime in 1997 said, "We don't want to hear from you." This is because they'd been told I was the murderer. So that sort of started to go out of the window, and I've struggled. I managed to get by. I'm never quite sure how. But no, it's been a struggle, and I have quite a bit of debt I carry as well relating to this case, which I'm trying to do the best I can to.
You mentioned in passing there poetry, and that you are a poet, and you've recently published a collection. How important is that to you?
Well, it was very important, really. It's what had happened there, because I'd always written poetry anyway throughout my life, and I'd written poetry as a child and won prizes, and so it was in me, if you like. And then I came to Ireland, and then I found Kavanagh and various other people, and I set about writing a collection. And what I was doing was, in the first year I was here, I was travelling around. I was in County Waterford on the farm, various other places, and I'd be writing about it. And by 1996, sometime in 1996, I'd amassed 20, 30 odd pieces, which I was happy with, poems. And I thought, right, well, I'm going to bunch these and have this as a little sideline. And it was then, out of the blue, in January or February of 1997, we had a knock on the door in the early hours of Monday morning, and I was carted off, and then Jules and the house was left in a terrible state, and a lot of stuff was taken, and I got parted from these poems that I'd written, and I thought I'd lost them. But then, lo and behold, earlier this year, just before my 60th birthday, I went to my library shelf and I looked in a book, and I opened a book of other poetry, and inside it was this little slim collection of poems. So I managed to pull them out and add a few and write a few more and put them together, and I've now got a collection of poetry called The West Court Way, a collection of poems and ballads.
And it's on sale?
It's on sale. It's not widely available yet. I hope to have it on Amazon.com, print to order at some point, but at the moment it's really probably people can get it from me directly in Bantry or Skibbereen or Skull Markets, or through the post. €15 to the Prairie in Skull, or a stamped address envelope. I can send a copy through the post, and it's going very well.
Two things before I let you go. Some of the things you would have said to people over the years that they were very quick to repeat back, that you claimed to be the murderer, that you might have used language that maybe I'm sure you regret at this point.
Yes.
When you look back at that, was that your sense of humour?
Well, I mean, I just used, and I said this before, I unfortunately, regrettably, used irony and satire as a sort of way of parodying and handling the thing. I mean, there was a rumour going round. I was being told there was a story going round that I had something to do with this. A completely false story. And my response, albeit very ill-advisedly, was to use I've always had a dark, dry sense of humour. And I regret that.
And that damaged you, of course, didn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was misinterpreted. So I'm a lot more careful now what I say, yes.
The future for you, how do you see that? Now, I know there's more to come in terms of court, but how do you see the future?
You know, I don't have my crystal ball with me at the moment, but life is a strange thing. And things happen. I mean, none of us really know, do we, about the future? You know, you could step out of here tonight and you know, fall under the Lewis. I could. So, I mean, I live very much in the here and now. I use various mental techniques for coping. I meditate, I use visualization, and I just try to keep as busy as I can. I don't know. I mean, I would hope. I mean, I don't think the true identity of the murderer is ever going to come out, so you never know. But I just take day by day. I really don't know too much about the future. What I do know is this: while I've got breath in me, I will carry on fighting them in the courts, on the beaches, on the hills, wherever. I'm going to battle on as long as I can to try to clear my name.
The late Ian Bailey there speaking to me in 2017. He submitted a fresh DNA sample to Gardaí in the months leading up to his death, according to his sister, and Leanne rummaged that out from the archives. We went on, it's just a piece of the interview. We spoke about his treatment of his wife Jules Thomas as well, and really, a strange man. People have said to me several times after, well, come on then, what's the story? Do you think he did it? To be honest with you, I don't know. I thought about it a lot because subsequently, after that, I met him a couple of times and spoke to him on several occasions as well. I have no idea. I really, genuinely don't know. Anyway, news and information's on the way.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24111.
Thanks, Pat. Welcome back to the second hour of Tip Today. 1800 938 007. Listen around to say, Fran, I think Ian Bailey did it. But in light of innocent until proven guilty, if he was innocent, he must have had the most miserable life. He was very lucky there was no social media around in the midst of the investigation. I can't imagine the stress of carrying that for decades. But how charming he was in the interview has me very unsettled. I, too, am confused. Now, well, as I said, I couldn't make up my mind. I kind of had my mind made up before I met him, but then I wasn't too sure. However, I will say one thing. He was a complete and absolute narcissist. Absolute narcissist. As I said, Trudy Lawler set up the interview for us. Herself and her husband Billy met him at Writers' Week in Listowel and asked him simply would he come on the programme, and he agreed to do so. So Trudy and I met him after one of the court cases at the forecourts, and he did a press conference then for television and the like after that, and then we met him, and we had to walk down Bachelor's Walk there to a pub, and I remember it was a lovely sunny day, but the amount of people that wanted to come and shake his hand and meet, and women who came over to say hello to him was, kind of incredible. But a complete narcissist. He really, really enjoyed the publicity of it. He enjoyed the whole thing about being a centre of attention, and whether he did it or not is you can make up your own mind on. Anne-Marie is in Temple too. She said, how did you not get the heebie-jeebies interviewing him, Fran? It sounds unusual, but I'd love to have been in his presence to feel if there was a dark aura and how he smelled, says Anne-Marie in Temple too. Well, I can't speak for how he smelled. Was there a dark aura around him? No, I don't. No, I can't say that. But he certainly tried his best to be extremely charming anyway. On Ian Bailey, you just said strange man. I wonder would someone who had no information whatsoever on the murder of Sophie Toscans and Plantier beforehand consider the man you interviewed to be a strange man? Personally, I do not think so. I am of the opinion that he was a fall guy in all of this. Sophia was, if my memory serves me correct, in the process of divorcing her wealthy husband, and I think there's a lot more to the murder, and only the actual murderer can reveal. Well, I suppose that's the point that he was making himself there in the piece, but there you go. In 2008, hundreds of Irish soldiers were deployed to the African nation of Chad as part of a major international peacekeeping mission. Now, the operation, led by the European Union, aimed to protect hundreds of thousands of refugees who had fled violence and conflict in neighbouring Sudan's Darfur region. Stephen Hogan was part of the Irish peacekeeping force at the time, and he joins me now. Good morning to you, Stephen.
Good morning, Frank. Good morning to our listeners.
And it's good to talk to you today. And thank you so much for sharing about this, because I'm fascinated with the whole peacekeeping operations and that. I presume you volunteered to be part of that deployment, Stephen.
Yes, Fran, I would have volunteered now. I was only 20. I was 20 years old when I volunteered, so I wasn't long after doing my training in the Defence Forces, and then I think it was only about 3 months later after our initial training that we got the option to volunteer to go overseas with the UN with it.
Did you know anything about Chad? Did you know anything about the political issues going on out there at the time?
I never even heard of the place, Fran. I never even heard of the place. If you pointed to me in a map now, I know where. Alright, but other than that, no, I never heard of the place. Now, obviously, heard of other continents within Africa now, but never heard of Chad now. But before our deployment, now, I would have looked it up and looked into the background of it now. But there was war going on there for thousands of years, Fran. Like, you know, it's a very poor country. I think the average lifespan there, still at the moment, is 55 years old. Like, you know, so it's very poor country.
It's incredible. Who did you go out with? What was the company you went out with, Stephen?
So I was with the second trip, so I was on the 98th Infantry Battalion. So that would have been led by Kilkenny Barracks, the 3rd Infantry Battalion, the Bloods they call them. That's their nickname. So the first trip out there was from Dublin. 90% sure it was the 5th Battalion. They would have been the first deployment out there. Oh, sorry, Fran, it wasn't the first. The first deployment out there would have been the Army Ranger Wing. So the Ranger Wing would have been out there first. They would have done a reconnaissance prior to the defence force going out there. So yes, they would have done a reconnaissance and all that. And then it was the 97th Infantry Battalion went out there first. And then I was on the second trip, Fran, then the 98th Infantry Battalion with Kilkenny Barracks it was.
Would you just say, it must have been a complete culture shock when you arrived there, because my understanding is extremely hot, desert conditions almost.
Yeah, we were kind of, when we first arrived in Chad now, we were kind of arriving at the end towards the wet season, so you'd have all the likes of the wadis, it'd be still very damp and wet out there, so you would still have thunderstorms and lightning, so we were kind of going from the wet season into the very harsh dry season, desert conditions that would have been, Fran, you know.
My God. And were you prepared for it in terms of your uniforms and, you know, all of that?
Oh, sure. We're better equipped now, the Defence Forces, than we are the likes of the people going to the Congo and all that now, Fran. So we did have issues there at the start, but we were very well equipped now, you know. Compared to other national armies, we worked with the French army and the Spanish army and the other national armies out there as well, like, you know, defence forces out there as well, like, so we would have been well equipped, yeah. Especially if we're going on patrol. We've been up on patrol now on the border with Sudan, so when we're going up around that area, it would be a bit hairy, you know, alright, so you'd have to just be well prepared. So we would have done our MRE training, our mission resistance exercise training, and that goes on for about 2 months long, like, you know, so we would have done all that training before our deployment out to Chad, Trent.
And what exactly were you doing? I guess protecting civilians, and of course there was a huge refugee aspect to what you were doing as well.
So they would have. So when we went out there first, I know we were working under. It was U4 mission, it was. So yes. It would have been a peace enforcement. We were doing peace enforcement, it was. So we were enforcing the peace, not compared to the likes of your peacekeeping. So it would have been a bit more dangerous, I suppose, the peace enforcement side to the peacekeeping side, you know. But overnight, then that mission changed overnight. Then when we were out there, that changed to peacekeeping mission with the United Nations. It is.
Yeah. And what about the danger of it? I mean, what did you come across, Stephen?
Just most things, you know, we would have been out on patrol now. A few scenarios would have happened on patrol, but on our trip now, it wasn't too bad, Fran. Like, it wasn't too bad, but there were a few hairy moments, all right, out there on patrol, especially up and around the Sudanese border now, where you had the rebel groups and stuff operating there. They be coming in over the border, attacking villages, and they be going back across the border. So we couldn't go across the border because our UN mandate wouldn't leave us go over into Sudan, like, you know. So we couldn't go that way, like, you know. But it's very dangerous out there. One night we were on patrol, and we had a patrol harbour set up, and I was on stand too. It was just a security perimeter. Myself and 3 other people were on security perimeter. We heard a load of gunfire one night, and the following morning, then we found out there was rebels have to come in over the border, and they killed a load of people in the village. They did, unfortunately. Yeah, that's an ongoing problem out there. Back then it was, Frando. You know, the very poor country, like, you know. And very dangerous, and health conditions were very poor out there as well, like, you know, for the poor children, even the adults are very poor. But initially it was a peace enforcement mission with the U4 mission, it was, and then overnight, then, as I said, it changed into United Nations mandate,
So it was dangerous, but obviously a very important humanitarian mission.
Yeah.
Did it have a lasting effect on you, your time out there, Stephen?
Looking back on it now, it would to be you wouldn't be volunteering out. I wouldn't be volunteering out again to do it,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be volunteering, I wouldn't compare Chad now, sort of Afghanistan or Iraq or any of them places, but it was dangerous, all right, Fran,
Yeah, I'm sure it was, indeed.
Because you had the rebel group, the rebel group out in Chad were called the Janjaweed,
Yeah.
There would be, you'd probably see them in the movies, beyond the pickup trucks, and they'd have their RPGs and Kalashnikovs and all that, but then you had the Chadanian army, they worked alongside other armies out as well, to enforce the peace as well,
Right, but it was the rebel fighters and these groups that made it particularly dangerous, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah, and even I think it was the president of Chad actually died. He actually got killed in battle there 4 years ago. There, Fran. He was fighting with the Chadanian army as well, and he got killed by the rebels himself. There, actually, he did.
My God. But the level of poverty you witnessed out there, I mean, we talk about poverty here, but in places like Chad, particularly back then, I mean, it's a whole other level of poverty, isn't it?
Yeah, we worked in a place called Cosbida. So Cosbida would have been our main forward operating base, would have been our FOB forward operating base. So we would have been our headquarters, so there weren't much in Cosbida. It'd be like a little village, a small little village in the middle of nowhere. So it'd be, the farthest hospital would probably be in Injamena, so it'd be like 1,000 miles away to the nearest hospital. If you got very sick or injured, you're either left there to die, or if you were lucky enough, you would have got a helicopter and out there, But it's very, 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 very isolated place, Fran. Especially when you're on patrol. If you're on patrol up around the Sudanese border, up the top of Ade, a place called Ade. They're all French colonised, Arabic colonised places. So they would have been small villages, but they're very isolated and very poor areas of the country, Fran. Injamena would have been the most populated area,
Yeah. And where did you live? I mean, did you set up tents in a sort of a compound? Is that?
We had our place in Cosbida, so we had our main headquarters would be in Cosbida. We would have worked with other foreign armies as well. Other foreign armies would have lived on the base with us as well. So we had big tents, all right, Fran. But sometimes you'd have the air conditioner be working, and sometimes it wouldn't be, because the sandstorms and the dust and everything be clogging up everything. So some days you'd be. Yeah, I think I lost about 3 or 4 stone when I came home. My mother and father were looking at me. My mother and father didn't recognise me with the amount of weight we lost, because we were on ration packs twice a week. We were out there, so we're only getting proper food probably 3-4 times a week out there.
That's amazing. And I believe the temperatures were kind of 40 degrees plus, I believe.
I'd say some days now, with the humidity and that, it was pushing up nearly 45, 46 degrees heat there, yeah. Definitely. And especially when you have to wear the body armour and the helmets and on patrol and you're in the back of the tanks. It takes a while to acclimatise to that kind of environment. Right?
God, I can imagine. And what about downtime? Did you have any downtime? And if so, what did you do?
If we weren't on QRF, or if we weren't on duty, or if we weren't on patrol, so that's why we broke up our trip on QRF or duties. Or QRF is Quick Reaction Force. If there's an incident in the local villages, they deployed the defence forces in to stabilise that situation. But usually, if you were in camp and you weren't busy, you'd have a kind of a siesta period from 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, So you have a kind of cooling off period, so the temperature would be too warm to work in,
Yeah. Were you glad you chose to do it?
Looking back on it now, I was glad I did it, yeah, but like I said, if you asked me to do it again, no, I wouldn't.
Right. And did you go anywhere? Did you go anywhere else in your army career? Did you?
No, I just went to Chad now, Fran. That's all I went to now, And other people probably listening this morning radio, they would have went to if they're officers or any of them, they would have went to other parts of Africa or Lebanon or even Syria. There was the last mission in Syria, and even Lebanon. I think Lebanon is finishing. Lebanon's supposed to be finishing up next year, Fran.
Yeah.
So there'll be a lot of Irish soldiers now. They'll be in barracks there, and they won't. I think Lebanon's the only place really the Irish Defence Forces are at the moment, for private wise, because the Defence Forces is made up of a lot of privates and NCOs, and officers obviously, but there's a lot of them are made up of privates, so it'll be hard for them to get overseas now with Lebanon gone, But hopefully they'll be looking into this triple lock now, or this double lock now with the United Nations. They might not.
Are you following all of that, Stephen? Have you an interest in what's happening?
I was listening to it there this morning, Fran.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some people say it's a good thing, it's a bad thing. I don't know. It's a hard one to judge. Like, you know, I think that. The way the world has gone now is the security of the way the world has gone now, and it's so dangerous now, friend. Like, you know, I think we should still need UN approval before we go overseas. Like, you know, instead of leaving it down to our own government regards just government approval and all approval. I think we should still need United Nations approval before we fly overseas. Like, you know.
So as a former member of the forces, that's your take on this. That's your take on this.
At the end of the day, it's the United Nations. They're a peacekeeping force. Like, you know, and they're the ones that are deploying the troops overseas, like, you know.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we're still a neutral country, like, you know. So I think we should still have a United Nations say on it, like, you know, because we're with the United Nations 1958 or 59 or something like that for which years, like, you know.
Of course, and what you did in Chad was a United Nations authorised peacekeeping effort, of course, as well there. I presume, Stephen, that the camaraderie among yourselves, when you're under pressure like that in a place like Chad, it must be amazing. You must make great friendships, do you? Or do you all annoy one another because you're so close?
So it's probably like every job, Fran. Everybody knows want everybody in work, like, you know. You just get on with it. You just get on with it and just do what you have to do, and just go to bed that evening and get a bit of sleep, and you're back up the following morning and do the same routine again, like, you know. But in general, back when I was in Chad now, that was 2008 to 2009, so we were there for 5 months. But we would have, before we went to Chad now, we would have trained together and lived together, and we would have worked together, so we would have known everybody, like, so everybody got on well together, like, you know. Yeah. We all did good, friend, like, you know.
How long were you in the army, Stephen?
15 years, friend. 15 years, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. See, I had like so many people in the defence force. We kind of settled down and we make our own families, and it's hard when you have a family as well. You're overseas for 6 months, like, you know, and you're gone from your kids and that. So I just wanted to just settle down with my family, like, you know. I did one overseas trip. That was enough for me, friend, like, you know.
Yeah, well, it's a great story, and I presume it's something you're asked about all the time. Is it, Stephen? Is it something?
My wife has the same in my head from listening to me.
And I'm sure
but in general, though, it was a great experience, man. Like, and so many people, like people in the army, you know, the people that are serving in the army, you know, they wouldn't be allowed to come on the radio or talk about it. The Defence Force policies in place, they're being told not to talk to the media and that. But because I'm gone out of the Defence Force, I can talk a little bit about it, like, you know. But in general, it was a good trip, but there was dangerous stuff out there as well, friend, like, you know.
God,
it was very dangerous.
I can imagine. Now, not only the danger of these armed groups, but for me, the creepy crawlies out there and all of that, I would hate to. Was that an issue for you when you were?
When we arrived first, it was kind of in the wet season, so there would have been a lot of. Some people listen this morning and say he's silly or something, no, but there was some amount of frogs. I've never seen some amount of frogs in my life. Frogs,
Go away.
I swear, I've never seen frogs. And there were snakes and camel spiders. Camel spiders are big things. Now, I was getting out of bed one morning, I was putting my boot on, and there's a big massive camel spider. If you get Leanne or someone Google it, you'll see it on Google there. The camel spiders are big yolks. Now they can't hurt you, but they're scary, you know. They're definitely scary.
God. Oh, stop! I couldn't hack that at all, I'm afraid, Stephen. Stephen, thanks for sharing the story. I love to hear stories like that. It's absolutely great. Great to talk to you, Stephen. Thanks very much indeed. Right. Thank you.
Thanks, Fran. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye to you now. That's Stephen Hogan speaking to us there about his time in Chad, back there in 2008. Particularly dangerous time, though. I mean, when you consider that Chad was caught up in a very complex and violent regional conflict, and it was all linked to the war that was happening in Darfur, in neighbouring Sudan at the time as well. Fran, would it be possible to promote the following on Tipp FM? Templederry Text Alert Committee, they're hosting an open day at Templederry Kenyan GAA Centre on Saturday the 13th, which is this coming Saturday. Services include demonstrations and sign up for the following community services: SAS, Senior Alert Scheme, Medi Alert, and panic buttons as well. There's also the Cllr app, a mobile phone app that alerts friends, and a monitoring centre to bring help should you have a fall or some sort of medical event, I guess. Property marking as well, where a unique number, your driver licence number, is laser etched onto your property Everything from your mobile phone to garden equipment, garden trailers, car trailers, agricultural equipment, and all of that. Also a standard text alert subscription renewal, and you'll have tea and coffee there on the day, and you'll be extremely well looked after. And that's according to John O'Brien, who is Secretary of the Temple Dairy Text Alert Committee, and that's a great initiative, John. Well done. So that's this coming Saturday, isn't it? I'm not sure about the time there. It's probably going on throughout the day. We'll take a break. Back in just a moment.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, puck on. See slatterysgarage.ie.
At the very top of the programme, I spoke to Bernard Purcell from the Irish World in London about the Henry Nowak case, the 18-year-old who was murdered. Frank was onto us following that conversation, and he said, I think the police are being unfairly criticised. Yes, serious mistakes were made, but they have to access the situation in seconds. Or should that be assess, I suppose, the situation in seconds when they arrive at the scene of a crime, which is very difficult. Unfortunately now, every anti-immigration individual is using this to further their cause. It's very sad, and our hearts have to go out to the young lad's family, and that's in from Frank, as I say. 1800 938 007. Now, former County Councillor Tom Wood of Cashel got in touch with the show this week to share the struggles faced by the local Tidy Towns group, and Tom joins me now. Good morning to you, Tom.
Good morning, Fran. How are you?
I'm well, and good to talk to you as always, Tom. In your correspondence with us, you said the Tidy Towns Committee and many local individuals put in a great effort to present the heritage town in the best possible manner, but you're saying the local authority is leaving you all down.
Yeah, I suppose to put it in context, Rand, I mean, the services that are provided by the council, the grass cutting and the bins, etc., is all well looked after. But the concern that I have over the last number of years is the presentation of the buildings, the property of the council, the public buildings. Now, as I said, the Tidy Towns and other individuals are doing Trojan work, and sections of the council are. But, I mean, over the last number of years, I've been constantly onto the council in relation, first of all, to their depot in Friar Street, just above the church on Friar Street. I mean, the condition of it, the exterior of it, the timber doors are literally rotting away. The walls need a coat of paint. You do it in 2 hours. But to get them to do that seems to be impossible. And the other big interest I have is in relation to the former town hall, or what we know, Fran, as the City Hall, here on Main Street. I mean, prior to Patrick's Day of last year, I requested that the weeds that are growing in the gutters and on the windowsills of our City Hall, that they would be removed. And I don't know how many times since then I've been on to the council section to hope that they would do it, but to no avail. And of course, the City Hall, Fran, as you know yourself, has a long history. It's a very historical building, and it was completed in 1771. 1771. Wow. It cost at the time £700 to actually construct. That was a lot of money, Fran, back in 1771. And over the generations and over 200 years, 230 years approximately, it was the location for the local authority. It started with, it housed the corporation back at that time until 1840. Then there was a change in local government, and it was followed by the town commissioners until 1898. And then, of course, Cashel Urban District Council in the early 20th century, and right up then to the town council, which was still there until the new offices were built in Friar Street back around the year 2000. So it has that history going with it. It also, as you can well remember yourself, Fran, especially for most of the 20th century, it was the centre of entertainment.
It was indeed.
The town hall, the city hall upstairs, the dances, the shows, the concerts, etc., that took place there. So there's a wonderful history in relation to it. And when it was built, Fran, in 1771, it had a different appearance at that time because the ground floor was actually, it was an arched area. It was the public market. So where you have all the windows, we'll say today. When you look at the town hall today, Fran, you see there was arches there originally where the windows and doors are. That was an open market area. And that's where the women sold calicos and muslins and checks, all items like that in the market. And then directly behind it, Fran, we'll say in front of Donoghue's Bar at the moment, that's where the butchers had their stalls out publicly on the street, and that's where they sold the meat, in the butcher stalls. It was known as the shambles. At the back of the city.
What a history! So what a history! Yeah,
a wonderful history to it.
And do you remember the seat in the little niche there? My granduncle Willie used to sit in it all the time. Sorry, Tom. Yeah.
And a great man who used to sit in it regularly was the late Patsy Lacey. He loved sitting there because he knew the history of it. That's where the stocks stood on the corner there, and as you said, there's a niche in the wall there, and it was a permanent seat for delinquents.
Was it?
The delinquents had to sit there in public, and they were chained there in that area.
I never knew that.
It's still there to this day. But to think like that, presently it houses the tourist office, our heritage centre. The council themselves have an office there, and yet the presentation of it with the weeds growing. I mean, internally it's been damaged because of dampness, etc. And that they need to be cleaned and the building presented in a.
But Tom, are we not back to the age-old conversation that we have? Back to the town councils. This wouldn't have happened under a town council.
No, it would never have happened. I know. I'm tired of saying that. It would have never happened if we had our town council. But maybe it's the fact that the people who should be looking after it don't realise the history of it.
Maybe so.
And that's why it's so important this morning, even on your programme, to let people know the history of it. The fact that it is built, as I said, in 1771, and that it was the seat of our local government right up for 230 years. And it's been so easy for them to actually attend to the problems that are there at the moment. Remember also, Fran, inside in the Heritage Centre, we have the original Cashel charters. And we have the one from Charles II in 1663 and from James II in 1687. The original charters. John Knightley, when he was around, Lord have mercy on him, and others, many years ago, they were promoting the idea of getting the original charters back from the National Library in Dublin. And eventually they succeeded. And they are on display there inside in the Heritage Centre. And I know that over the last 12 months there were concerns by people in relation to the dampness in the building and for the presentation and the maintenance of those. So all I've been asking for the last year and a half is that the building would be looked after as it should be. It deserves to be looked after for the public and for all those visiting. We used to have lovely baskets, you might remember, Fran, up a few years ago.
Yeah.
The hanging baskets around the hall with the flowers on them. Now you have nothing, only weeds hanging there. And I mean, they were set up especially so that they were automatically watered and everything. They didn't even have to come out to water them. We don't have them anymore. People are asking me regularly, Fran, what's the big plastic bag hanging out of the window at the gable end on the plaza end of the City Hall? In fact, it's some of the cables from the Christmas lights are inside, and that if people are interested to know. But it should be presented in a better fashion.
Yeah, because you speak yourself. You speak about the importance of tourism to Cashel. I was sitting outside lovely Fians there enjoying a drink. I think it was last week or the week before. And I couldn't help but notice the dereliction and, the amount of places that are closed down, falling into disrepair, and the castle as well, the Carney's Castle as well.
Yeah,
it's such a pity, isn't it, Tom?
We're hoping progress has been made with the council in relation to the acquisition of the castle.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's in the pipeline. But as you said, I mean, only in recent weeks I was just kind of thinking about the number of premises now that have closed. And I mean, in every town and village in the country, premises are closing and have closed. We've been very lucky here in Cashel. But between Ladies Well Street, Friar Street, Main Street and Lower Gate, Fran, we have about 16 substantial premises now that are actually closed. And I mean, it's a big disadvantage in a heritage town and a tourist town like Cashel. And you know, hopefully that, you know, some of these premises might start some business in them in the near future. But we have 16 just in the town centre itself. And people are beginning to realise that and to notice that. And that's why an area or a centre like our Heritage Centre, our Tourist Information Office, it should be presented in the best possible manner. And it's not as if it's going to cost a fortune to take the weeds out of the gutters and clean them and save the building from dampness. You know, it's a simple thing to do, but I don't know why it's not being done. I just can't understand it. And a lot of people keep saying it to me. Why are there so many weeds growing out of the town hall when we used to have lovely flower baskets at one stage? Now we have weeds even on the windowsills.
And I mean, you're a former town councillor, a former county councillor as well. What about the local councillors? Are they not sort of taking this up, Tom?
Well, I mean, I've been in contact with the councillors, I've been in contact with Oireachtas members, I've been in contact with management of the council from the top down, and I say in the last year and a half, Fran, I probably have sent in maybe 12 to 20 messages into them in relation to that, but no progress in relation to that or in relation to the council depot in Friar Street, a very small area, but with the timber doors literally falling down and other people on both sides of it presenting their premises and their properties to a high standard, painting them and keeping them clean, and the council themselves supposed to be the promoters of our tidy towns. I mean, if you were to take the Tidy Towns Committee, Fran, out of the equation, our town would be very sad indeed. I mean, the work that they're doing is just amazing. And as I said, other sections of the council, like I said, the grass cutting around town, the emptying of bins, etc., all being done to perfection, to a high standard. But for some reason or other, and as I said, maybe they don't understand the history of our city hall and appreciate the value of it. And the value of it to people like myself and, you know, people who have been reared here in Cashel, who danced upstairs even in the old town hall. Your own relation, Willie Ryan, was a great man up there. When there was a Mrs. Holmes, Fran, from Thurles, she used to come over when we were only youngsters to teach us Irish dancing.
Well, there's a coincidence. I'm just looking at the screen in front of me here, and it says the town hall was where we all learned to do our Irish dancing with a lady called Mrs. Holmes over 60 years ago. Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
Upstairs in the town hall, and Willie Ryan, the Lord to mercy him, Willie would be there, and he would be lining us all up in a straight line. And when we'd be dancing, that floor used to swing up and down, Fran. The floor itself was so old. And I mean, the wonderful entertainment that went on in the hall as well, the Choral and Dramatic Society, the Youth Club, the whole lot, all the events that
and of course, yourself and Oliver Corbett and those wonderful shows that you put on there. That's where I would have seen you both first.
Amazing, and I mean, it would be packed to capacity, and we'd run them for 3 or 4 nights, maybe even a couple of times a year, and people just loved going to their town hall as they knew it. But originally, as I said, it started as the City Hall in 1771.
All right. Well, let's put it out there now and let's get something done about this, and we'll follow this up in as much as we can. Always a pleasure. I just see our screen lighting up here with memory. You've done it again, Tom. All the memories coming back to people. Great to talk to you. Thanks, Tom. Thank you. Bye-bye to you now. That's the great Tom Wood there in Cashel. Let me take a break. Back in just a moment.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tipp today on 1-800-938-007. Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon, now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the Expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long-wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Join the conversation in Tipperary. Contact us through Facebook, Twitter, or email tiptoday@tippfm.com.
And you're very welcome back, and it's time to talk about interior design. Karen Prendergast is with me in studio. Good morning to you, Karen.
Good morning to the listeners.
And good to see you today. We're going to start with living rooms, and I suppose that's where we spend most of our time. So what about making it feel more comfortable, making it feel maybe a bit bigger?
Yeah, definitely, and that's a question I get asked a lot. So I suppose the biggest part of making any room look bigger, and we're talking about living room, is we're going to say declutter. So that's really important. If you haven't got enough of storage, you get some storage, maybe clear out the storage that you have already, not this weekend but the weekend before, the long weekend. I did a lot of clearing out. It genuinely, brochures that were old that I needed for work and that kind of thing, and went through clothes and so forth, and I had a kind of a backlog of clothes a little bit, so I had to clear out. But like by clearing out, I could see what I definitely wanted to keep and not keep, and make room for like summer clothes and that kind of thing. So storage is really important. Lighting is key, and we'll probably touch on it a few times this morning. Lighting is key. Make sure that you have enough of light in the room. If you feel that your furniture might be in the wrong position, I often get call outs for that people say to me, look, my room, I feel the furniture, we might be able to do a bit better. I'm not sure what I need to do. Maybe move your furniture around. If you have a rug and it's been hanging around a while, maybe change up that rug or get rid of the rug altogether. I'm on a job at the moment actually, and the lady and gentleman at the house, I was with them not last week, the week before, were in the middle of a job, and they said, will we get a rug, won't we get a rug? And I felt, look, they'll be listening this morning actually, they love the show. I said, a rug kind of might get in the way. We're only after taking up a carpet and putting down a beautiful floor, so we won't cover the floor. The floor is much brighter than the carpet was, so it depends.
Right,
it depends.
Okay, very good. And if you were to choose a rug, how would you go about choosing a rug?
You don't want something that's too small. So again, depending on the size of the room, the rug would definitely go maybe a couple of inches under the sofa, the main sofa. Again, depending on the use the room gets, don't get probably the biggest pile, a really thick one that can become a trip hazard. There's lots of rugs out there now that we didn't even have 5 years ago, that you throw them into the washing machine and you wash them, even the bigger ones.
Are you serious?
So they're absolutely perfect. They're lovely and thin. They give you that little bit of cushioning that you want. They take away the starkness of a room, and I think the washable ones are the way to go.
Right. So without spending a fortune, then you just rearrange what you have.
Rearrange what you have. Make sure you've got enough storage. Make sure you've got enough of natural light and artificial light. And you might have a rug that you might want to change, and maybe for a brighter one or a different style, and that would make a room look bigger as well. Or no rug at all. I'm a no rug at all person because of my allergies, so I just don't have rugs.
Of course, yeah.
Except at the front door and the back door and the usual, and they're a brand that you can wash as well, so they go into the machine and they're washed.
Well, you see, I'm always afraid of falling over the bloody thing.
So am I.
Are you?
So am I,
yeah. So that's a concern. Where the kitchens are concerned, then, and again, if you're on a budget, you might just have a few bob to spend. What about that angle on it, Karen?
Now, I suppose if somebody wanted to get their kitchen painted, wanted to paint their kitchen units, we'll say, friend, this would be your biggest thing that you could do in a budget for yourself. You could buy the paint, do the work yourself, and easily get that done on a very, very tight budget, including painting the tiles behind the kitchen units as well. So that would be a big job that you could do yourself. I would say the paint for painting the kitchen and the sandpaper and all the bits and pieces you'd need, maybe some disposable dust sheets and stuff like that. You'd buy a lot for €300.
Would you?
And if you were willing to do that project yourself, including the paint, yeah, because for kitchen units you're probably looking at maybe a gallon of primer, a gallon of paint, a gallon of undercoat, you'd easily do it for 300 franc if you were doing it yourself. So that would be some place that you could.
Would you do it right, you see, Karen? I'd make a complete mess.
Look, that's the thing about it. The other thing, what could you do to make it look more expensive? Maybe introduce some plants, or some artificial plants, or some plants, depending if you're good with real plants or not. Maybe repaint the kitchen. So they're all different ways that you can change the look, make it more expensive. Maybe buy some very reasonable wall art. There's a lot around for under €50. We spoke about that a few shows ago.
You do advocate for to look at the possibility of a kitchen island. Now, the The main row in our house is about the bloody island
big.
that we
Sometimes they're too big.
There's traffic lights we need around.
We had that discussion before. Yeah. So again, if you want, if you're having an island unit and the island unit is always up somewhere around your kitchen units, you need a minimum of a metre either side to get around it. Really 1,200 to get around it safely, that you're not banging off it, that you can, if you have stools at one side of it, yes, that you can use and the whole lot. So sometimes people, when they're thinking about redoing their kitchen or adding an island unit, they think go bigger or don't go at all. It's to make sure that the size of the island that you put in there works with the space that you have around it.
Yeah, well, the one we have is like something Charlie Haughey would have bought. But anyway, the bedrooms then, and I suppose to make them relaxing and comfortable.
Yeah, so I think the colour is really important. So nothing that's too garish or too bright, something that's nice and relaxing. Often talk about the colour, subtle. I go to so many houses and say we use this colour or whatever. So subtle is a great colour. Temperance is another lovely one. Earnest, if you're into grey and you're into those very light colours, the colour Earnest, Fran, is really nice as well. Very, very nice. That's subtle, that's temperance.
Okay, and again, if people Google
if they Google, they'll get them. So that those colours would make a lovely relaxing room. Very easy to find bed linen to go with it as well. So that's really important. Right. So nice mood lighting, a nice relaxing colour on the wall that's not too bright.
Storage, Karen?
Nice bed linen and storage.
Yeah.
So a great one for bedrooms is, and I've done this myself, is that I have, we'll say, a three drawer unit that I use for underwear, socks, folded jeans, jumpers, all that kind of thing, and I put another one on top of that. So instead of having the space a little bit useless above it, because I didn't need it as a dressing table, I desperately needed the drawers, I have 6 drawers instead of 3.
Very good.
So the top, well actually the bottom one, my husband screwed it to the wall, and the top one we screwed it to the wall, so there's never any possibility of, you know, anything, any drawer coming out or anything like that. So that's a great way of making more space. And if you do have a bed that you have storage underneath, you can use boxes or different things, and then you could change up your winter clothes, your summer clothes and that kind of thing. But I think most houses I go into, they're begging for storage, Fran.
Absolutely, yeah. But I see in shops there's fantastic storage boxes available down there.
There is in all different colours, and you know they're not plastic anymore, they're different colour fabrics. There's lots available. There's the bags that you can get that you can suction them out with the hoover. I found a box when I was tidying last week that I hadn't used. I said, where can I use those now? But like, there is loads of storage ideas out there. It's just to get the thinking cap on. And I suppose to talk about the storage again, it was like me putting off going through my presses there for ages until the bank holiday weekend. You'd be surprised how much storage you can find when you tidy what you have, or get rid of what you have. Not get rid of what you have, but move it on. Maybe there's some stuff in the house you can put out in the garage in safe storage, it'll be fine, and that kind of thing. And of course, family, friends, charity shop and the whole lot is all our friends.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'll give you a laugh now. So I loaded up a load of my clothes and I put them into bags, and I knew where they were going. I still didn't give them away, and that's 2 weeks ago nearly, because I think will I rummage through them
sure,
again?
I know. You see, I know exactly where you're coming from there. I want to keep everything.
I think I put that
find it so hard to give stuff away.
And there was studs on it, never wore it, and I'm thinking when I was after doing it, I think I'll take out that white. Because I won't get another one with little studs on it.
Look, you were kind enough to mention the jacket that I'm wearing today.
This fabulous on you.
I had put that out to be given away. And I picked it back up off the floor. Anyway, there you go.
So anyway, the 3 bags are now out in the utility, and I'm going to rummage them again.
Bathrooms then. I mean, again, if we want to make them feel a little bit bigger.
So again, go brighter. Brighter, you might have a blind up that's ancient, that's old, that might have a bit of mildew on it. Brighten it up. See, can you get a lighter colour? Loads of people, again, storage is a thing in a bathroom. Lots of wall units available now that you can buy, that you can stick on the wall, that you don't even need the floor for. Make sure the ceiling is painted. If you have some walls in your bathroom that you haven't tiled, because lots of people love tiles in their whole bathroom, so it's hard to update those to make them brighter. You can repaint some of the walls if they're not tiled. And of course, again, we're talking about light, so make sure you have good lighting in your bathroom that's bathroom safe. And also, if you have an older mirror, maybe replace the mirror with a new mirror that has the light around it as well. All brighter and nicer, and makes the place look more expensive.
Of course it does indeed. Is there such I mean, can you get tiles that won't go out of style and go out of fashion in some way?
I suppose tiles are a big thing because, you know, they're costly to do a whole bedroom regardless of the size, even if it's a handy size bedroom. But the thing is, don't go mad, go neutral, go a bigger tile, go less grout in between. If you get a bigger tile, it means less grout lines, so the grout is much smaller if you're getting a bigger tile. But go neutral, go bright. Don't go for anything too exotic that's going to date. I mean, I'm going into, I deal with one particular tile shop, and I'm going in maybe bedrooms that I did 20 years ago, and some of those tiles are still available today, you know, because they were timeless. Now obviously the people that are taking down the tiles that are 20 years old, some of them even 25, friend, they're fed up with them and they want a new change, or maybe they want to take out the bat, or they want to walk in shower instead of the shower tray or whatever, so that's the reason for changing. But I think buy well once with tiles is really important, but neutral is great.
How do you keep the grout looking fresh?
I suppose just keep on top of it. Don't let the mould build up, you know. And of course you can re-grout if you need to, and there is pens out there that you can get to touch up the grout in a lot of the hardware shops and the whole lot as well. But it's not an easy task. But some of the bigger tiles now, the grout line is so minuscule in it that it's, you know, it's much less to keep than years ago. So the bigger the tile and the type of tile you buy, it will mean a lot less grout. And of course there's brands of cladding out there now for bedrooms that I use quite a bit on jobs as well, and it's a slightly cheaper option, definitely a cheaper option, Fran, but you've got no grout lines. If it's put up right, is absolutely amazing, and I'm sure there's a probably 15 or 20 year guarantee, and it's Irish companies that are selling it, and it's a fantastic product instead of tiles.
Very good. We're just about out of time, but one of our listeners wants to know, and it's a very good question indeed, you know, should every room in the house have the same sort of colour palette? Should it all sort of match up in some way?
It's in.
Is that
it's in? Like when I was selling paint so many years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, Fran, like you'd have maybe dark green was in, and dark green curtains and the whole lot, and then you go to soft peach in another room, and you might go to yellow in a bedroom, and the boys' bedroom might be blue and the girls' bedroom might be pink. This is genuine, you know. For years this was the trend, but now it's more, you're going more neutral colours. You're having a story throughout the house. So sometimes somebody might paint their sitting room and their hallway the same colour, maybe a slightly different tone in the kitchen, and maybe then paint all the bedrooms the same colour, but then quite possibly the bedrooms the same colour. Then that gives you the choice to change your bed linen up, especially in the bedrooms that you're not stuck with one type of bed linen going forward. Because genuinely, how often do we paint our bedrooms? Not often, you know. But definitely a neutral palette throughout, and if you wanted to go maybe a dark green or a dark taupe or something in your sitting room would be lovely as well. But I'm all for, when you hop from one room to another, that you don't get a fright.
You get a fright in our house for all sorts of reasons. All right, if people want to talk to you, Karen,
they can contact me on 086 606 9009. Facebook, Instagram, and website is Interior Concepts.
All right, you're off to do some lovely work now, aren't you?
Yeah,
okay, well, we wish you the very best, Karen. Thank you for that. News and information is coming up.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24 111.
Thanks, Matt, and welcome back to the final hour of Tip Today. 1800 938 007. The text and WhatsApp is 083 311 3311. And we do have a winner of our €50 voucher for Slattery's in Nina, celebrating 80 years in business, can you believe? And the €50 voucher is going to Anne Hogan from Brownstown. Well done to you, Anne. And a happy spending there, and we'll have another voucher for you tomorrow morning, in fact every day this week. And then on Friday we will be broadcasting from Slattery's. We're going to have a mighty bit of crack there for sure. Time for this.
For every problem, there's a solution. Dear Phil, on Tip Today with Phil Prendergast.
Phil is with me in studio. Live radio is wonderful, isn't it, Phil?
Yes, absolutely exciting, and you know, on the spot and just sorting things out.
All of these kind of things, indeed. All right, letter number 1 then. Dear Phil, I find myself in a very difficult situation and I would appreciate your advice. In recent years, I've developed a number of allergies, the most serious of which is an allergy to cats. Now, some people might think that it's a minor issue, but unfortunately, my wife has 2 cats that live in our home. When I explained to her that my condition has worsened and that I can no longer comfortably share a house with the cats, I was shocked by her response. Instead of discussing possible solutions, she simply asked, "When are you leaving?" I shouldn't laugh at the letter. To be honest, our relationship has not been in great shape for some time, but her reaction has left me feeling hurt, unwelcome and unsure of where I stand. I don't want to make any rash decisions, but I am struggling to see a way forward. Should I focus on finding a practical solution to the allergy problem, or do I need to accept that there may be deeper issues in our marriage that need to be addressed? When are you leaving? That's a bit harsh.
It's a bit raw, all right, isn't it? Well, look, I think the main issue, he shouldn't be just thinking about the difficulty in the marriage. The wife might have just been a little bit smart and snibby with him when she said, "When are you leaving?" The thing about it is, there's a lot of issues when people have an allergy to animals. And it's particularly bad if they have an allergy, like, where you need to get an allergist to go and have skin testing to see how bad this allergy is, to see what they could take. They could take antihistamines, nasal steroids, they could take allergy shots or have immunotherapy. So they're all big ticket items. But he should ask about short-term symptom control so that he can function. It can be very difficult, right? A severe rhinitis is when your eyes are streaming, your nose is streaming, you're blocked up, your head is fuzzy, it's hard to think.
And it gets that bad from like an animal or
it can be very... The thing about it is cats release a thing called dander. And so really, I suppose they need to create cat-free zones, particularly the bedroom is off limits. Cats just love going to beds and lying in a sunbeam the whole entire day. They're just very good at that. So they should have cat-free zones, keep doors closed, use HEPA air purifiers in sleeping and in common areas and run them for several hours daily. Now, this can be an expensive thing to do because you're plugging in a thing that clears the air and clears the dust and clears the mites and clears already. There's other practical things like washing the bedding and the soft surfaces weekly in hot water, vacuuming with the HEPA filter and cleaning the floors. And then the cats should be washed weekly. Now, if you ever try to wash a cat... Good
luck with that.
I'm telling you one thing now. They'd reef you so you wouldn't have an ear, an eye or a bit of skin left. They'd absolutely... They just don't like the old water. Anyway, you should also replace fabric items that trap dander, like heavy curtains and some sorts of upholstery. So it's like, if you like loads of cushions, I like loads of cushions, well, you need to be taking off the covers very regularly and sending them into the wash. You need to be thinking about, do I need quite so many cushions? And should you just get them all upholstered and send them off to the charity shop? The charity shop will be delighted. And then just have a chat with the wife in a practical way, non-confrontational, and just say that I'm having allergic reactions that affect my sleep, my work, and I want to find a way that will work for both of us.
But, not to be cruel about it. I mean, if the symptoms are as you described them, Phil, I mean, surely finding a good home for the 2 cats would be the best option here, will it not?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But people get very attached to their cats. Now, I would be more attached to my husband than the cat. So, therefore, there's no issue in our house because I'm not allergic and neither is he. Unless we are to each other, which is only very occasionally. But anyway, he should propose a short trial period of agreed measures like 4 to 8 weeks and evaluate if the cats were in an outside area or if it could be contained. No, you see, because cats do so much sleeping, Fran. Technically, the cat could be locked in the utility or a small sort of unused bathroom or whatever. The cat could be left in there with all the things they need, like their litter box, the litter tray, fresh water and food and a nice soft bed, and let the cat go off to sleep to hell for the day. And
And what are you making of him saying, to be honest, our relationship has not been in great shape for some time? anyway. So there are other issues there.
You see, the side issue is it could be the relationship is the issue, Fran, but the cat is getting blamed, and it's distracting the attention from the issues, the bigger issues, which might require them going for counselling, sitting down. I mean, the wife asking, I know it's facetious, but when are you leaving?
I know.
It's kind of a smart alecky sort of a response, but maybe she was asking genuinely, well, when are you leaving?
When are you leaving? It might have nothing to do with the cats.
So it's kind of a sort of a sad old letter.
Isn't it just?
Yeah.
Isn't it just indeed? All right, the second letter then, dear Phil. I never thought, how many letters open up with this? I never thought I'd be writing about this, but here we are. My husband has been on the fat jab for about 6 months, and to give credit where it's due, he has lost at least 5 stone. Wow.
In 6 months?
Yeah. That's incredible.
Jeez, I wouldn't lose that in my whole life. But anyway, let's cut off my leg. Okay, my leg doesn't weigh 6 stone.
Stop making me laugh. I'm supposed to be serious about this. Okay, so the letter goes on. From a health point of view, I'm delighted for him. The trouble is, along with the weight, he seems to have shed his old personality as well. The man who was happiest in faded tracksuits watching the racing now spends his weekends buying designer labels, sporting a hairstyle more suited to a young lad, a third of his age, and posing in front of the mirror like he's auditioning for a calendar. To make matters worse, he started throwing little digs my way about my own weight. I tried to have a sensible conversation with him, suggesting that perhaps his newfound confidence was tipping over into a bit of midlife crisis. But can you believe it? He told me I was jealous. Jealous of what exactly? The skinny jeans, the hair gel, or the fact that I now have to queue behind him for the bathroom mirror every morning. I know I should be pleased he's healthier, but to be honest, he's becoming a bit ridiculous. Am I being unfair, or has the weight loss gone straight to his head?
Oh, that sounds so upsetting, really, doesn't it? Because the feelings here are very reasonable.
Yeah.
Your man is after losing weight. 5 stone is a phenomenal amount of weight to lose in 6 months, which means
with the
he's
help
losing
of the fat jab. Yeah.
Well, the Ozempic, whatever it is, whatever the Mount Jarrow, whatever it is now. There are specific approaches you could try, like saying, I feel hurt when you're now asking me to lose weight. It might be also that it's just thinking, well, maybe I should go and lose a bit of weight as well. Now, the best thing to do while he is so successful at having lost his weight with this particular item, medication, the best thing she could do is when he tells her to lose weight is to take herself off for a walk and just, try to lose weight without having to use things that are sometimes they're sourced on the internet, and they may not be the actual jab, they may not be the actual
We're hearing a lot
thing.
about that recently.
We are, but Fran, it worries me because there's so many opportunities now for scams and to scam people, and there are people genuinely that would have let or have become overweight, whether it is because they're riddled with arthritis, or it's becoming an increasing thing where they've been suffering with depression, and overeating is part of the features of that. And I understand very well how people feel when they're trying to soothe themselves but using food as the medium, and when you're using food as the medium and then you're not having the output or the exercise you need to counterbalance that, you are going to gain weight. And also it is a well-known fact that particularly women, as they get older and go through menopause and all the rest of it, you can nearly say to yourself, well, do you know what, it's better have the old floaty thing on me now. You're not a bit floaty inside it, but you're covered. You're covered. But anyway, I just think the fact that he's in love with himself, I think he's well justified in being in love with himself for something that he took, and it has made him lose 5 stone.
Yes.
And I think that's grand. But I do think he needs to be a little less sort of, well, why don't you try losing weight yourself?
Be like me.
And be like me.
Yes.
Gorgeous. I'd say if he was a piece of cake, he'd eat himself. But anyway, he believed that she was jealous, and this is not jealousy. It's kind of saying, you're using a medication to achieve something, but weight loss at that level, where it's in 6 months it's 5 stone, that is too much too soon.
Yeah.
And you're losing a lot more than weight when you do it like that.
Is it? If you lose a massive amount of weight?
Yeah, because he's going to be, if he's losing muscle and he's losing fat, he's going to have very, very loose skin. The next thing now he's going to be looking for, do you know what, we need to go now and get the skin removed.
Right.
So it's not as simple. It sounds very glib to discuss something, and I know we were having the laughing a bit about it, but it's actually very serious. 5 stone in 6 months is far too much weight unless they cut off his leg and one half bit of his arm.
Yeah.
It's too much loss. So it's much better that his wife would think now, okay, I'm going to do a slow process, so I'm going to be cutting out certain foods that maybe you don't know. Of course, if you're allergic to certain foods, there are some things that people don't agree with at all. It wouldn't agree with their system. But there's a way of doing it, and I suppose there's many, many groups in Clonmel and all over this country that have they have classes where you can go and you're given the right advice about what to eat and when to eat it and what to cut out. And I mean, one of the biggest things would be, for a lot of people, is that don't succumb to having the wine every night.
Yes.
It's not an answer. Look, one glass of wine is not going to do anyone any harm whatsoever. But sitting down with a bottle of wine is not a good idea. It just isn't.
I had to look at that, seriously.
Yeah, but you see, Fran, it's very easy to get into a habit.
I know.
And the habit becomes then something that, this is June, it's going to relax me, it'll help sleep. And at the end of the day, having wine a couple of times a week or at the weekend or any alcohol is absolutely fine. But moderation really is key here.
Of course, yeah. But if, like me, if you're prone to a bit of melancholy, really, you need to look at it because it makes it so much worse.
Yeah, but it also makes it so much better while you're drinking it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Until you're in the zoomies the next morning, except you're not in the zoomies at all, you're in the slowies.
Or you wake up in the middle of the night. And
exactly.
Yeah, I know. The only final thing I'll say, I mean, fair play to your man. Look, he sounds like myself, he was a bit of a slob. And now he's started looking at himself in the mirror, and it's not too bad. But he's kind of enjoying that time as well. Is that a kind of a fair way to look?
It's very reasonable that when he's been 5 stone heavier than he was in 6 months, it's a phenomenal change in how he looks.
Yeah.
He's very obviously feeling delighted. But now he must have loose skin, so the skinny jeans might just be holding up all the fat that's around his cankles.
Stop making me laugh now.
I admire him for what he's done, but sometimes you have to have a more softer approach to losing weight, and losing 5 stone in 6 months is it's like as if, look, I'd love to do it. I'd love to wake up tomorrow and be 2 stone lighter.
Fine, not at all.
But you know what I mean? It's just that it's the wrong approach, I think, if you want to be very serious, because you have to include walking, some degree of exercise, maybe cycling. There are so many things people can do that doesn't involve walking. You can cycle.
Yeah.
You can do exercises in your chair. You can do leg raises. You can do arm raises. You can do all sorts of carry on, and you can say to yourself, I'm getting so fit from this.
Right, so a holistic look at it is what you're saying.
It's much fairer altogether.
So our final letter then, dear Phil, I'm writing because I am getting close to retirement now and I'm worried about what is going to happen to me. I've worked all my life, but I never had money to put into a private pension as things were always tight with the house and the family and the bills. I'm not very good with money stuff, but I do know I don't have anything put away for later. I'm worried that the state pension might not be enough to live on with how dear everything is now. My health is not great either, and I'm finding work harder as I get older. I don't want to be depending on my family, but I also don't know how I'm going to manage when I stop working. I feel a bit stuck, and I don't really know what I should do next.
Yeah, this is a kind of a sad letter enough, Fran, because it's worrying about the future. And really, I suppose, you have to think about what is the weekly shop, what are the outgoings from the house, is it rent that she has to pay, is it a mortgage, is she mortgage free, has she a car, does she need diesel or petrol, does she need, you know what I mean, there's a lot of things that come into review. Now there's really good people within our community that you can go and talk to about preparing for retirements. In fact, there's many courses that are run to prepare people for retirement, and there's a whole lot of issues in relation to stuff that we have around the place, and you think, oh, I need to have the cupboard stocked and I need to have this. If your family has left and maybe your partner has passed away or is gone on or whatever, that you need to think, how much do I actually need?
Yes.
Now, I mean, they're not going to be having to buy a jar of marmalade every week. They're not going to have to buy a thing of sugar every week, because I wouldn't know where to find the sugar, because we just don't use it, so it's not there. But I'm sympathetic, because she's thinking about, she's close to retirement. What she needs to do is go and have that seminar about retirement and what can be done. There's so many helps in this, you know, in relation to.
But when you're not working, when you've retired, there's a lot of expenses that you won't have, I suppose.
That is there. You won't have travel expenses. You won't have that. And I think one of the most important things about these seminars about how to prepare for retirement is it's like the money advice and budgeting service. And I know I always go on at this, Mabs. I just think it's a fantastic thing, because they give you out sheets that show you what you're doing, and if people have a worry about the future, you can stop that worry if you're actually sitting to it. What am I buying every week? What do I use every week? What will I not need if I'm stopped working? Will that save me on a travel expense? Will it save me on diesel costs? Will it save me on parking charges? Will it save me on this? And you have to work out, what have you subscribed to that you totally and absolutely forgot about, and you're paying this subscription every month? Now, there's an awful lot of people that are doing this, Fran. They're very unaware, because subscriptions are very subtle. You won't say that I'm going to just say a generic thing, that, oh, we're paying such and such that amount every week, but they've changed the name on that, so it no longer becomes something you recognise, but you see that there's $6.99 a week going out, or $7.50. You think, oh, geez, that's not much to worry about. Like, this will be significant if you have 10 subscriptions, and some of them could be over €100. So it's a very good thing to go and take a serious look at what are you paying out, what subscriptions have you got that you no longer use or never used. In fact, you might have bought them and then forgot totally about that.
Yeah, it happened to me recently. I bought a supplement a couple of months ago, and then I was getting the supplement every so often. And
Fran, I had to change my card that I had for a product that they kept sending.
Are you serious?
And I had said repeatedly, I do not want this product.
But you see, I can't get back now and find who these people are to stop it in some sort of way.
There is a way to do it, actually, yeah. So you have to go into your subscriptions, and it's kind of forensic. When you're looking for something, you need to think, say, for instance, Happy Harmony. Okay, go in and find that. Yeah. Then find what other name it might be. So you have to go to this small print. Now, the small print is not only small print, it's bloody tiny print. You can hardly, you would need the magnifying glass.
Well, it's deliberately in that
but
way.
It's in that, so you can't do it. So when you link back what subscription it is and what other names they have now put on this, and China is brilliant at this, they will write you reams and reams and reams, because they don't want you cancelling a subscription that's given them money every week, and maybe every day.
I don't ever remember agreeing that they could take that every, I think, 6 weeks or something.
Because they always have these little things in the very, very small print, Frank, and people are dangerous for not reading the small print. I know this, and I know exactly what you're talking about, because I had the very same thing.
Yeah, I know.
The very same thing.
Phil, pleasure as always. And if anybody out there would like to share a problem with Phil, it's tiptoday@tipfm.com. Put Dear Phil in the subject bar, and we will bring those problems to Phil. Thanks very much.
Always
Phil.
a pleasure, friend.
Pleasure. We'll take a break. We're back with more Tip Today in a moment.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puck On. Now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the Expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high roof vans, long wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puck On. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Now, South Tipperary Autism Parents Support Group are holding a sensory-friendly Debs Ball taking place at the Talbot Hotel in Clonmel on Friday the 14th of August. And Catherine Kennedy is chairperson of South Tipperary Autism Parents Support Group and joins me in studio. Good morning to you, Catherine.
Morning, Fran.
It's good to see you today. This is a fantastic idea. Will you tell us about this? It's a sensory-friendly Debs Ball.
Yes, so basically what we're going to try and do is cater to people with additional needs. With a regular Debs Ball will be extremely loud, lots of people, the whole lot, and that's what we're trying to eliminate. So we're aiming to do reduce sounds, reduce people, and that it's just going to be a lot more comfortable for them. We'll also have a sensory mobile unit that will be outside, so there'll be an area for them to go and regulate themselves if everything does get too overwhelming.
Yeah, I think this is fantastic. Will you just tell me the effect? Because your son Cormac is with you as well, and he's very welcome too, and lovely to see you, Cormac, from Scoil in Cashel, of course. Will you just tell us what happens when they're confronted with an environment that is not autism friendly?
Well, they can become really dysregulated, upset. It's all individual. Yeah. Like, you think yourself, if you're somewhere and it's too loud, it's too noisy, you want out of there.
Yeah.
Do you know? So it's no different for a young person with additional needs. They want out. And we need to make the environment as friendly for them as possible. I can't say to you, oh, one child is going to do this or they're all going to do that, because that doesn't happen. Everybody is different.
Right. So, but if this opportunity wasn't there for them, they probably couldn't go to your
They may not
usual.
Get it. No, they may not. Now, don't get me wrong, they may be able to go on for a little while, or some children will be able to go. There'll be no issue there. But I know, say Cormac, for example, I know he wouldn't.
Hello, Cormac.
You'll hear that an awful lot. He'll jump in and out.
Why not? Why not?
He'd be okay for so long, and then that would be it. He'd be gone. Yeah. So the reason I decided to do the Debs Ball was my oldest son would have had a ball. Yes. He would have went and we would have went and bought suit, all the stuff that goes with it. I wanted that for him. So and then I thought on the bigger scale, why can't they all have one? Why can't they all have this experience?
Right, so is this a first of its kind then?
I think so.
Yeah.
I have heard talks have been done before, but I've never heard any feedback, or I've never seen anything online from it.
Right.
So I don't think it has been done before.
So my understanding is 16 to 21-year-olds with additional needs. That's what you're saying. And how can they make contact with you? Because we're not just talking about one school here. You're broadening this out, aren't you?
I'm broadening this out to anybody with additional needs in that age range.
Yeah.
Because I felt they may be in a mainstream school, but they still may not be able to access that Debs Ball.
Yes.
Because it might not suit their needs. So that's why I felt if we open it up to absolutely everyone, no one can be excluded.
Of course, yes. I presume carers then will go along too.
Yeah. So what I'm aiming to do is to have the carer, parent or guardian there. So if the attendee needs someone to be in the ballroom with them, that's absolutely no problem. Their carer, parent can sit in there with them, have their dinner, all that. If they feel their attendee, the young person can go in and manage on their
themselves,
own. We'll actually have a parents' room with like finger food and stuff like that for the parents. So we are asking them to stay on hand, because at the end of the day, they know their young person better than I do.
Of course.
I'm a stranger. So if they're there, we can call them, we can go get them. And like that, when the music starts, they can actually come in and join us then.
And speaking of the music, my old friends, the Dublin City Ramblers, will be there on the night. Well, that's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it now. I've met them down the Coachman several times here in Clonmel, and they're just fantastic. So I said, do you know what, we chanced our arm and we were able to get them. So I'm really looking forward to them.
And the great Billy Bob.
Sure, you can't beat Billy now. He's fantastic, so he is.
Yeah. Fantastic. So it's going to be a great night. So if people are interested, tickets are €50, I think. But if you're a carer and you want to go, it's €30.
€30,
right?
yeah.
Okay. So if we want to get tickets, how can we do that?
If you contact our office at info@southtippautism.ie, or if you call or WhatsApp us on 089 268 4361, someone will be able to come back to you. We also have our Facebook page, which is South Tipperary Autism Support Group New, and then our Instagram is at South Tip Autism.
All right, and we're talking about the 14th of August at the lovely Talbot Hotel in Clonmel. We wish you well with that. I presume, Catherine, like all other carers I talk to, it's been a battle for you, has it?
Yeah, absolute battle. Do you know, everything is a battle.
Yeah.
I think you just get so used to it that you just keep going.
Yeah.
And that's all you can do. Like Cormac was diagnosed, what age were you diagnosed at? 3, 4?
4?
I think 4 he was diagnosed at. And then I would have joined the support group about 6 months later.
Yes.
And like, that's...
And as he comes to the end of his time in schooling, so what Skull Cormac, I beg your pardon, what are plans for the future then?
I have none at the moment. He has 1 more year in Skull Cormac, and I dread the thoughts from leaving because it's a whole other mindset.
It's like starting again.
Oh, it is.
To some degree.
It's absolutely like starting again.
It's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what if you find my life for the last 18 years? It's like, ooh, what I'm going to do with my life.
Wow. So it's scary for you as well, Cormac, is it?
Yeah. It's like, you see on the news, the wars, it's like, I can't be too looking forward of the future.
Yeah. What a shame that is, because it shouldn't be like that. Sure, it shouldn't.
Like, it's always been like a war there, a war then. Life has always been always scary things if you look.
Yeah.
But like, you gotta look at the bright things.
I suppose. That's very good advice. But your time at Skull Cormac was fantastic, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I get you.
He's going to get me in trouble now, so he is.
You're just my motto. It's in this. I got to do this.
Well, look, it's lovely to meet you both, and thanks for coming in to us, and we wish you well with that. And just to give out that WhatsApp again is...
it's 089 268 4361.
All right, okay. We hope you have a fantastic time. Yes, Cormac.
Can I give a shout out to...
Of course you can.
To Skull Cormac.
Just come a little close to the microphone for me, yeah?
Hello, Skull Cormac, and Miss Commons, Karen, Dylan, Duggan, Rory, Aidan, Connor, and Cleo, and Mr. O'Brien. You have a good crack.
Well done indeed, and lovely to see you both. Catherine, thank you indeed, and Cormac, thank you very much indeed. We'll take a break. We're back with more.
Tip FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tip today on 1-800-938-007.
Now, recently on the show, we received a message from a listener asking if other women had the experience of being churched after giving birth. Now, Betty, who has spoken to us quite often on the programme over the years, was in touch with us about this and joins me now. Betty, good morning to you.
Good morning, Fran.
Lovely to talk to you, Betty. Betty, you went through this, did you not?
Yeah. Sorry?
You went through this, Betty.
I did, yeah. Before I tell you what I have discovered since, and I just want to thank people who supported Susan. It was a great success last week. There are still plants there, and there'll be staff there between 10 and 2 every day, weekdays. So do pop in if you've missed it.
So that's Susan in Nina, Betty, isn't it?
It is. It's for the hospice in Nina, so the Cancer Support Centre. And every euro is appreciated. Thanks.
Right, very good indeed.
Now,
yes.
Fran, the church thing. Now, I didn't know about it. I hadn't heard about it. Now, we lived in London when our children were born, and my first child, when he was baptised at the font, he was baptised a month after. He was a month old, and he then the priest then said, come with me now to be churched. And I said, what's that? He said, to be cleansed. And I went up with him and I knelt at the rail, altar rail.
Yeah.
And he went inside and I don't remember the details, he probably sprinkled me with holy water and said prayers and said prayers and all that. And that was it. Now, there was no mention of it 2 years later when my second son was born. It was never mentioned at the baptism. And
what year was that roughly, Betty? What?
That was 59 years ago, and it was in London.
In London? Wow.
In London. And in both occasions for my two sons, we were friends of ours who baptised them. That priest, I even got permission from the Archbishop Cardinal in Westminster so that he could be godfather. I asked, was it possible? I thought it would be a nice gesture, Yeah. Anyway, that's beside the point. The churching, anyway, I talked to other women, and yesterday I did a kind of a straw poll here in Sewer. I just chatted to a couple of them, women my own age, and said, were you churched, and what exactly did you understand it to be? And they all said, well, it was cleansing. Now, Fran, I went and looked it up. Yeah. Churching, it goes right back to the Old Testament. It goes back, it's in Leviticus, the third book of the Old Testament, and the Torah, which is the Jewish
Bible.
So it goes back. You see, it comes from the pre-Christian, and what it tells us there, the definition is, it's officially a blessing of a woman after childbirth, and it originates from the Jewish purification laws of Leviticus, thanksgiving for the survival of the birth, the mother surviving the birth, and to celebrate her safe return to the community, to the congregation. That's what it is. So, you see, it was purification, it was a blessing, but they use the word cleanse, and which has connotations. You don't cleanse something unless it needs to be cleaned. What is to be cleaned,
Of course, yeah.
So that is how in the Catholic Church, churching was in all their Christian churches. It's in the Book of Common Prayer, it goes right back to the Book of Common Prayer, which was in 1662, and they have that as part of the service, a service of thanksgiving again. Now in Vatican II, it was dropped.
Yes.
In the 60s, so it faded out. Now, I understand there are some people who like it and still go for it, but it's optional. And
Yeah, you see, I can understand the notion of it welcoming the mother back to public worship or whatever, and, saying a prayer or giving thanks because the mother is unscathed after the childbirth and the child is healthy. So I can understand that aspect of it. It's just the unclean bit that troubles me.
It was the word they used, cleansing.
Yeah.
And whereas if they had explained it was a blessing, we were never told it was a blessing. It was cleansing after childbirth. And that's how they were taught in the seminary. And, we the community, congregation, we never looked it up. And it just shows one has to look up and get the origins of things before we make judgments, and that's really where it was coming from.
And do you think that people have made too much of it over the years when we look back on it and say, it was kind of barbaric or it was cruel in its way?
No, women didn't, it was misunderstood. If it had been explained, then you get a blessing, like, back to all the sacraments. But women were told, you will come and have a blessing. But it was accepted as you had to be churched before you went back to Mass and went to communion. And some people remembered where a woman would come, and when Mass was over, she would come in from the porch and she would kneel down and she'd be churched.
Hold on now, Betty. So you weren't allowed to attend a service and you weren't allowed to receive communion until you were churched, is it?
That's what I was told from one source. Now, what do I see? The first time I heard about it, apart from when I was asked, come up here, you to be churched up to the rails, and I didn't question him. I am on the Gay Byrne show in the morning. There was a woman who rang in. That subject came up, and she said she had it. Now, this was back when in some parishes they had the station in the house. For people who don't know what the station was, it was mass where the parishioners attended, and they paid a collection.
Yes.
I don't know what particular thing it was for. It was called the station.
Yeah.
We called the stations because it rotated around the parish in different houses. Now, we never had it down in my parish, South Tipp, but this woman said she had a baby. She said, we had the station in the house. All the neighbours were in. She said she got everything ready. She had to stay in the bedroom. She said, I stayed in the bedroom and I watched through a splink in the door while the priest said Mass, and I saw all the neighbours and all that. But she said, until I was churched. And she was explaining all this to Gay. That's when I first had the full account of that woman's experience, you know.
Now, I find that incredible. The poor woman, she had to stay in the bedroom looking out through the crack.
Yeah, because he would say the Mass in the community, then she'd come out and he'd probably give it, or she'd possibly, at one stage, you could be churched anywhere, but then they wanted it to be in a sacred place, in the church. You know, I mean, rules change over the years. I mean, one time back in the 1700s, back when the Catholic Church wasn't recognised, marriages took place in the bride's home. You know, and then because there was so much drinking, I suppose, and you know all the rest of it, and the church then insisted marriages had to take place in the church. But there was a time when they took place in the bride's home.
Yeah, and when you look back on it now, Betty, do you think it was cruel to women, or was it just the way things were and people generally accepted and got on with it? How do you view it from 2026?
I see it differently now. Now that I have looked up the source of it and the reason for it was a blessing. And you see, in the Old Testament, there was rules of purification. I don't know how much you know about that, but there was. About the women, the menstrual cycle, there was rules and regulations during that.
Will you tell me a bit more about those rules of... how did you describe it again, Betty?
What?
Rules of what?
Rules relating, say, to the woman's menstrual cycle.
Right.
In the Old Testament, from the Old Testament, they had rules within that pre-Christian about.
And what again? They were viewed unclean with the menstrual cycle. Is that?
There were strict rules about that. Yes, and they wouldn't have sexual relations. They were forbidden during menstruation. Yes. There was the rules. Now, I mean, Mary brought Jesus to the temple. The 40 days was very significant back then. You see, we took on when the Christian Church evolved. Yes. I mean, it was coming from the Judaism. I mean, Jesus, all these, they were all Jews. So a lot of the rules and things, I mean, we have a tabernacle in the church. The tabernacle was where they kept the commandments. And when they were out in the desert, wandering in the desert, and, Moses, the command, they had called a tabernacle. It was a portable box, a portable place where they kept all the Torah and all that. And when they were living in tents and moving in the desert. So we called it where we put the communion on the altar, a tabernacle.
Yes, and it's normally locked, isn't it, with a key? Yeah.
Just like we have a lot of things in the church that come down from the pagan tradition, pre-Christian here. All this, the way people honoured the water, the wells, the fire. We have it at Easter, lighting the paschal candle, and they honoured the elements. So they were passed down into...
Yes, but they were Christianised in some sort of a way.
They were Christianised, but they were they were taken on board. So church history is amazing. It's so interesting, all how it's evolved. And I don't mean just Christian churches, all religions. I love to read up about other belief systems. To me, every religion is a belief system.
But quite often in most religions, women are viewed as second-class citizens, Betty,
But Fran, it's not just in religion. In the lay society, women, within the law, they were the goods and chattels of their husbands, weren't they? up until kind of early 1960s, I think, like a wife or a widow, or she was the part of her husband's goods and chattels.
My God.
I mean, there was cases in the paper back when I was a kid. I mean, I'm over 80 now, so it's a long time ago. But there was court cases, and if a married woman had an affair, the husband could take the other man to court. And do you know what he was charged with?
What?
Criminal conversations.
Criminal conversations?
Look up criminal conversation. That was the term used.
My God.
Yeah.
And I presume there was much more than conversation going on, but...
Well, that's what they called it. But, but no, the thing is, she was the property of her husband. I mean, she was the property of her father before that. Her father walked her up the aisle, and he gave her to the man who was going to marry her, and then she'd become his.
Yeah, and of course that's still happening, Betty, that notion of giving away the bride. Again, as if she's a piece of property, yeah?
Yes, but that was, I mean, it's in every culture, you have all these elements where women are not equal with men, and it has been taken for granted. I mean, our ancestors, our mothers and grandmothers, they didn't question it; they accepted it.
Did you accept it over the years, Betty, or did you fight against it? Because you were nursing, Betty, weren't you?
I was, yeah.
Yeah. Did you have a lot of this over the years?
What?
Did you have a lot of that over the years of being treated as a second-class citizen at times?
No, I never felt. I had a very good. I had a good opinion of myself. Let's say that.
Yeah.
You know, I had confidence, and I was brought up to be confident. I observed it, and I'd say I observed the inequalities. I observed these things. When we came back from the UK, and I went to the post office to register to get the children's allowance, because my husband was was now a full-time, permanently employed taxpayer. I went to sign up, get the children's allowance, which I was entitled to. And he told me I couldn't, I would have to get my husband's permission to get it. So I said, well, if that's the case, then my husband can get it. I'm off. She went into the post office, signed up, and set up that should be paid into an account, and not, and collected that way. Yeah. But I mean, those little things. And Fran, a woman having surgery, a gynae, say she needed a hysterectomy.
Yeah.
That back in the past, the husband's permission had to be sought. Because she was his property.
Are you serious?
Yeah, way back in his.
And what did he have to sign something, Betty, or?
He had to sign a form to get his permission. He had to give, no, it wasn't called permission, it was called consent.
Wow.
He had to give his consent.
For his wife to have an operation, my God.
Because if she needed it, yes. Because she would no longer be able to produce babies for him. And he had to, if she needed, so he needed to have his womb removed. Yes, there was a lot of things, and people they went along with it because they didn't realise that they had a right to speak up for themselves. No.
And why do you think that they didn't speak up for them? Was it because their faith was so strong, Betty, or why?
It was a lack of awareness that they just were conditioned to kind of accept what was needed. I mean, in the marriage ceremony, you have to love, honour, and obey. You're to be obedient to your husband. That's in the service, in the marriage. Love, honour, and obey.
Yeah, and you seem to look back at it almost like a historical thing, but you're not bitter over it or particularly cross over it, are you, Betty? No.
But I think in every aspect of history, we have to look at the big picture.
Yeah.
We have to look at what the times were like an awful lot of terrible things happened. But if you go back to 1901, to the census forum, every year they ask a different set of questions. They start statistics. I mean, that's the whole purpose of the census forum, to have to know what the numbers are and what's needed in the country. But on the night, this came as a shock to me, and I'm not easy. I was up at them before you could get stuff online years ago, up in the forecourts where the archives material was, before removed. I was going through census forms from 1901, and there was a question that was on them. If you have anyone in the household who is an imbecile, a lunatic, or an idiot, you had to report it.
My God. Wow.
Now, yeah.
God, the language was very unfortunate, Betty, wasn't it?
It was. That was the language used. And I found that I had a great-granduncle whom I found out later what was wrong with him. He was born profoundly deaf. He had no hearing whatsoever.
Yes.
And because he couldn't hear, he couldn't speak because he couldn't hear sound.
Of course, yeah.
And they put him down, as Thomas was his name, they put him down as an idiot, an imbecile.
Oh, my God. Oh, the poor man.
And I found out afterwards that he, through the family, that the stroke passed on down from his niece, my grandfather's sister, to her son. He told me, she'd said, that uncle, he used to get up and dress himself. He was able to do jobs around the place, but he could never speak. He was silent because he was deaf. He couldn't speak. And of course, there was no hearing aids. There was no treatment for anyone like that. But he had to be categorised as an imbecile because that's an imbecile wouldn't be able to talk and hear and all that. And there was nothing else wrong with him.
My God, Betty, it's just they were incredible times. Betty, I could talk to you all day, but I'm sadly I'm out of time. Lovely to talk to you, Betty. Thanks for your time this morning, Dot.
Thank you so much, friend.
Thank you, and bye-bye to you now. Bye-bye. That's Betty speaking to us there. Leanne is with me. God, you could listen to Betty all day.
I know, she's brought back so many memories for so many people.
Yeah, you're getting a big reaction on the phones and stuff to Betty.
Yeah, a lot of women not too happy and questioning if things have really changed. That much within the terms of the church, because women still can't be priests or deacons. So that conversation keeps coming up and up. So it's something on people's minds a lot.
For sure, yeah. You've been busy today. A lot of reaction to various different topics on the programme.
Yeah, there's been a huge argument around Ian Bailey, if he did it or if he didn't. A lot of people, it coloured their life so much following this story. And even this morning we were chatting about the juice being loose off air, about O.J. Simpson and how many people tuned in. 9/11. Watching the footage, so many people, obviously they weren't on social media like we are now. They weren't scrolling and seeing videos of things constantly. They remember where they were when news stories broke. They remember the footage and who was with them, what they were wearing, and how it really impacted them.
Yeah, it's interesting. And you know, from your take and listening to the piece this morning, so do you think Ian Bailey did it?
I'm not convinced.
Right.
A bit of me wonders, it could be the journalist in me, if those narcissistic qualities and the kind of egotisticalness liked the attention of being painted as the murderer.
Yeah, now, following the interview, I mean, it all broke then, all the news about how he treated Jules, his wife and stuff. I mean, really, really dreadfully. I mean, domestic abuse and awful stuff that went on as well. And that all plays into the narcissistic thing too, you know.
Yeah, and he didn't follow the stereotypical suspect.
Yeah.
A lot of them tried to hide, tried to avoid attention.
He wanted to be out
He's
there,
kept himself in the spotlight. Unless you could look at the psychology of the thing of, you can't catch me.
Yeah.
So he was a very difficult character to navigate.
Yeah. Very smart though. Very smart, very articulate and stuff, you know, and thought he could command situations and stuff. Anyway, very interesting. What have we got tomorrow? Do you know?
It's going to be a busy day tomorrow. We're going to go live to Belfast following that. The stabbing last night. A man has been arrested for it, so we'll chat all about that tomorrow. And we've a very busy show. We're going to keep chatting about this idea of being churched. I hadn't heard about it. I thought it was something very, very niche, and I wondered how many people really experience this. We are inundated.
All right.
Absolutely inundated.
So we're going to hear more about that tomorrow. Very interesting. You're working me too hard, though. Leanne produced Stephen at the Time Tunnel on the Lunchtime Show. We will talk to you from Nina tomorrow, won't we? All right. Looking forward to that. Look after yourselves in the meantime. Bye-bye.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.